Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if IS finds Naruto part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Staring at Jiraiya's makeshift grave. Fat heavy tears slid down Naruto's cheeks. He felt his lips quiver and took a shaky breath. Though he had learned of his master's death a while ago, learning that Nagato could bring the dead back to life raised his hopes that he could be with his father figure again. A hope that was promptly shattered as he learned that he could only revive those he had recently killed in the invasion. He took another deep breath, trying to force himself to talk through the lump in his throat. It took a few seconds, but eventually the words came out quietly. Jiraiya-sensei, I promise that I will become stronger, and that I will bring peace to the world. The Dimensional Gap. Great Red. The Dragon of Dragons, the true Red Dragon Emperor, the Dragon God, the Apocalypse Dragon, the strongest existence. An entity with enormous and unrivaled power, he drew his unparalleled strength from the dreams of the pure of heart. One dream in particular caught his attention as he flew across the dimensional gap. World peace, eh? He's strong for a human too. He's got a good head on his shoulders with wanting to bring peace, a bit like myself when I was but a hatchling. I like this kid, let's see him bring peace here in this dimension. Great Red muttered as he descended to the floor. His wings flapped heavily as he neared and reached the ground, huge gusts of winds forming and rippling across the deadly oppressive atmosphere. I hope you succeed in bringing peace to this dimension. Good luck, child of prophecy. The strongest existence grinned as he materialized a portal right underneath the human. Chuckling at the shell-shocked look that formed on the shinobi's visage as he went through the portal that sent him into an entirely different world. Ko Town, World of DxD. Naruto screamed as he fell from the sky, very much startled from the sudden and completely unexpected change in scenery. Panic engulfed him as he felt the embrace of gravity pull his speeding body to land. On a normal day he might have enjoyed the feeling of the wind rushing past him as he plummeted down, of his form piercing the clouds the way a sword pierced a body. But such an experience could not be appreciated when he had no idea if he'd even survive. So exhausted he was that he couldn't even form a single clone to grab Senjutsu chakra. Looking down below, the shinobi spotted a large mass of water right underneath and felt relief at the sight. Rotating and angling his body in a way so he'd be in a diving position, Naruto didn't have to wait long before he became one with the water. Splash! The impact of his body landing from sky-high to the lake caused a large tidal wave to form and splash everywhere, the sound of the impact being heard by all the residents of Ko. Within a minute the blonde Jinchuriki poked his head from the water. His body soon followed and Naruto sighed in annoyance as he surveyed his surroundings and thought of his new predicament. What did I do to deserve this? He felt like a fictional character being manipulated by a vexing but very handsome author. The shinobi walked out of the lake and into the forest. The after-effects of his battle with pain rushed through him and caused him to stumble and stagger as he trudged through the trees, the strength in his body rapidly fading away as his vision dimmed and his legs shook with each step made. Naruto prided himself on willpower, but physically depleted and mentally drained as he was, it didn't take long before he found himself falling face first to the floor. The last thing he'd register was seeing worried violet eyes widen before a sense of determination overcame them. Naruto's Mindscape. The hell happened to me? Groaning as he got up, Naruto instantly knew where he was. He'd been here more times than he would have liked. So close, I was so close. The deep demonic voice of the Nine Tails bellowed across the entire Mindscape, the fury in its voice palpable even to the densest of humans. Had the fourth Hokage not intervened, I would not be locked in here, but here I am. You got lucky, brat. Kyuubi growled darkly as he glared hatefully at his container. Did you call me here just to waste my time? I Naruto glared right back, ocean blue eyes locking on to bleeding red. I'd rather die than spend unnecessary time with you, brat. No, I called you to warn you to be careful. We're not in the elemental nation. Hell, we are not even in the same dimension. That portal that formed has displaced us here, far away from your stupid village. What? How do we go back? Shock laced the young shinobi's voice, quite flabbergasted from this announcement. I don't know and I don't care. The elemental nation can rot in hell for all I care. I only warned you because if you die, I die. So for both our sakes, be very cautious and don't be your usual idiotic self. You're being very helpful for someone who tried to kill me just a few hours ago. Naruto glared at the Kyuubi, still furious with the Bijou, and said, Bijou scoffing and returning the glare. You tried being sealed inside a human for God knows how many years, then you can talk to me about whether you understand why I want to escape this blasted seal. Don't try to act as though you are innocent. You were sealed inside of me because you tried to destroy Konohagakure. Actions that weren't under my control. On that night I was controlled by an Uchiha. He's that Akatsuki member, the one with the orange mask. That attack from 16 years ago was caused by him. And before you say anything, know that before the first Hokage had me sealed inside his wife, I had no desire to mingle or crush you insects. I left you all alone and I still end up being targeted by you insects. It's like that brat you just fought mentioned, about how your village isn't as peaceful as you think it is. Enough, I'm leaving. He closed his eyes and willed himself to disappear. Oh my head. Naruto's mind slowly began to kick back into gear as consciousness started to return back to his senses. His facial muscles twitched as he started to remember what exactly happened that caused him to be so fatigued. The fight with Pain, Hinata dying, his father and Kyuubi, the conversation between him and Nagato, falling from the sky, learning that he's in a different dimension. Naruto bolted upright, unintentionally slamming his forehead with the crimson-haired girl. Immediately both he and the girl reeled back in pain, tears forming in both their eyes from the painful impact reverberating in their skull. Watch it, you idiot! Who are you calling an idiot, you perverted weirdo? Rias glared at the idiotic blonde. Who the hell suddenly sprang up like that after being unconscious for a whole day? She just wanted to look at him. She hadn't had the chance to inspect the supposed cutie pie that her queen and best friend was gushing about for the past 8 hours. Had she known the crazy blonde would get up like that, she would have very much kept her distance. Why were you looming over me? Naruto questioned, head still throbbing with pain while trying to wipe the tears from the edge of his eyes, getting off the now vacant bed and standing at his feet. I was checking to see if you were okay. My friend Akino found and healed you. You were in really bad shape, the young woman remarked, concern bleeding into her voice now as she looked at the man who made the last 24 hours a roller coaster of questions. Rias could feel her cheeks heating up as she eyed the young man's form. He was tall, standing around at 6'1" if she had to guess, with sun-kissed skin and golden blonde hair that stood out in every direction, practically tempting her to try tame the unruly mop. Blessed with intense oceanic blue eyes that emerged from underneath strands of gold that covered his forehead, she looked down to stop herself from drowning in his eyes and noted 3 curious lines on either side of his small cute nose and thin lips, all those beautiful features amplified by a strong masculine jaw. Looking at his physique, Rias couldn't resist biting her lips as she admired Naruto's majestic and muscular physique, from his broad wide shoulders narrowing into a thin waist, large defined arms on either side of a full and vast chest, and those abs, those abs. Rias had to suppress a delighted sigh as she gazed at what was most assuredly the most handsome man she had ever seen in her life. As a devil of greed, Rias had an immense and irresistible urge to control and rule over anything and anyone that caught her attention, and this beautiful human had most certainly caught hers. You are mine, Rias lustfully thought as she drank in the sight of the half-naked blonde with her alluringly mesmerizing eyes. Yup, she could definitely understand why Akino was obsessing over this human. The intense physical attraction Rias felt for the blonde shinobi was very mutual. Naruto was starstruck by the gorgeous seductress he laid eyes on, a full-blown blush on his cheeks as he gazed at the goddess many leagues above every other woman he had ever met in beauty. The first thing to have caught his eyes was her hair, a thick curtain of rich and vibrant red spilling down to her meaty upper thighs. Ivory skin bringing out the turquoise eyes hidden underneath a messy fringe of crimson silk ending just above her cute button nose. High cheekbones helped complement a razor-sharp jawline, all that drew attention to her bewitchingly pouty lips that he felt compelled to kiss. The crimson-haired beauty possessed a very voluptuous body with huge gravity-defying breasts, and a small waist flaring out to very wide and sinfully thick hips. He could definitely see Jiraiya-sensei getting knocked unconscious if he glanced at this woman, not that he could blame his master considering the woman's otherworldly beauty. Oh, thank you, I appreciate it, Naruto murmured shyly. The blush on his face faded away as he remembered what exactly propelled him up earlier. Where am I? Who are you? My name is Rias Gremory, and you're in my club here in Ko Academy, Rias answered, utterly intrigued and curious about the young man. Thank you again for taking me in and healing me. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. A small grateful smile adorned his face as he gazed at the now identified woman. Rias nodded and smiled. Well, Naruto-kun, I believe we both have questions for each other, so. She strutted her way to the blonde, taking care to cross her feet directly in front of each other, hips flexing so as to enrapture the man that caused her to feel lightheaded when she gazed at him. A smug smirk manifested in her face as she caught the blonde admiring her enticing features. A giggle escaped her as Naruto grew embarrassed when he realized he got caught staring, the blush to end all blushes erupting on his face and making him all the more cuter for the thirsty devil. Coming to a stop before the young shinobi, she handed him a black shirt from out of nowhere, the blonde saying a silent thank you as he quickly dressed himself, much to Rias's disappointment. Stepping even closer into his personal space, the outrageously bold succubus wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck, slowly pulling him to her as she bent backward, their foreheads once again coming into contact, though unlike last time they felt no pain from their rather intimate union. Moving her head to his ear, she leaned her face to his, enjoying how warm it felt on the side of her visage. I want you to make yourself at home, okay? Rias purred into his ear. Naruto felt shivers go up his spine, completely out of his element, and unused to dealing with women this forward. Naruto nodded shyly, internally praying that this beautiful young woman couldn't hear his heart hammering out of his chest. Good boy, now follow me with that. Rias let go of the blonde, pouting on the inside that she couldn't hold on to him longer. Grabbing his hand, Rias turned around and sashayed her way back to the main club room, Naruto getting dragged around and desperately trying to study the architecture of the ceiling. Anything to help avoid looking down or its death via blood loss. Entering the main room, Naruto was greeted to the sight of a skinny platinum blonde-haired man with handsome yet feminine features. A mole on the side of his nose helped bring attention to his gray-colored orbs. He seemed perfectly at ease laying his back on the wall. The next person to have caught his attention was a young petite girl with shoulder-length white hair, a cat hair clip that pulled back her bangs to reveal hazel cat-like eyes, her height reaching up to the lower side of his chest, effectively marking her as the shortest one he met here so far. Turning his gaze from his fellow blonde and the young girl who reminded him of a cat, Naruto noticed an average-looking brown-haired boy with the weirdest hairstyle he'd ever seen. He possessed no real defining or noticeable features excluding the hair. It was actually pretty scary how average he seemed. The boy seemed to dislike him if the expression of jealousy was anything to go by. Was he actually jealous? And from what? Standing next to the average and annoying weirdo was a girl who looked younger than Rias but older than the white-haired girl from earlier. Naruto noted golden blonde hair much like his, but that's where the similarities ended. Whereas he had blue eyes, her eyes were green, his skin was tanned and hers was fair. She looked so meek that Naruto had to wonder if Orochimaru, a man so despicable, would even have the heart to hurt this poor thing. Said poor thing seemed to whimper when he eyed her, something that caused the average boy to growl. Shifting his eyes to the final occupant of the group, Naruto almost blushed again as he gazed at yet another goddess-like woman, one who was definitely in the same league as Rias. The gorgeous woman possessed long, straight silky tresses of blackish-purple hair tied into a ponytail that reached all the way down to her mid-thighs. The stray strands of glossy black locks not caught by her orange ribbon framed her angelic yet oddly enough sultry face. A weird but also perfectly pleasing combination that did wonders to Naruto's heart as he admired the women before him. Looking down, Naruto barely managed to suppress a nosebleed as he caught sight of her enormous tits, no doubt at least a match for Tsunade. Naruto could only imagine how large it would be after a couple of years. Glancing down even further, Naruto saw a thin waist that then exploded to wide and very womanly hips. The shinobi had no doubt in mind that this sensual bombshell attracted the admiration of many, many men and the ire of many, many women. Gazing back up to her face, he took notice of a demure button nose that twitched playfully above a set of full and luscious pink lips, framed by high cheekbones and a sharp jawline. Tearing his eyes away from her soft kissable lips, Naruto looked into a set of mischievous violet orbs that conveyed amusement, no doubt very aware that the blonde was giving her a once-over. Not that Akino could blame him considering she took her time appreciating this young man's dashing and attractive features when he was unconscious. Sue her for ogling this hot hunk. Oh my, so the cutie pie has finally awoken. Yofufu hi, my name is Akino Himejima. She greeted him, a small smile across her visage as she acquainted herself with the man she found, healed, and perved on. Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I heard from Rias that you healed me, thank you very much. Naruto greeted back gratefully. Having never been cared for by anyone excluding a handful of people, it made the blonde appreciate Akino who tended to him without any motive or hidden purpose. Off to the side, Rias felt a tinge of irritation form in the pits of her stomach as she caught her queen disrobing and undressing Naruto with her eyes as they laughed and conversed. Glaring daggers at her best friend, she said and did nothing as she acknowledged that she did the exact same thing earlier right before dragging the blonde to her precious servants. Coming forward, the only knight belonging to Rias Gremory showed that he was well deserving of his title as the Prince of Kuo as he addressed his fellow blonde with a polite smile and bow. Hello Uzumaki-san, I am Kiba Yuto, a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Please, just call me Naruto, I'm not much for formalities. Naruto grinned. Kiba couldn't help but grin back, the whiskered man's attitude and friendliness being quite infectious. Only if you address me as Kiba, let me introduce you to everyone else. This gentleman is Issei Hayato, and the lovely lady next to him is Asia Argento. The timid blonde waved at him, and Naruto waved back. Looking at the now named Issei, Naruto was taken aback by the fire in his eyes. He suddenly seemed like someone with an admirable ambition to accomplish. Listen here, you handsome piece of shit, don't think that just because you have the looks means you already won. You have not won. I will become the harem king and I'll have the largest harem in the world. Naruto's face faltered right away. What kind of introduction was that? And that's his goal? Oh god, this kid was even worse than his master. Looking at everyone's reaction, he could see that Issei's words amused Kiba and Akino, had Asia looking disapprovingly yet hopefully with a small blush. Rias's reaction showed major embarrassment, and the white-haired girl. Die, you disgusting pervert. Ah, so she was that kind of girl. Moving on, this quite yet very nice lady is Kaneko Tuju. She's really pleasant once you get to know her. Kiba directed Naruto's attention to the shortest and pervert-hating member of the group. The two stared at one another blankly, both locked in a silent eye contest. Everyone else watched the duo amusingly, fascinated as to how they would react to one another. You have chakra, a lot of it, said the white-haired girl, giving the blonde a wary but also curious look. On the outside she seemed fine, but internally Kaneko was shocked. This man's reserve was enormous. She'd never come across someone with an abundance of chakra like this guy. I do. Naruto nodded, ignoring the shocked and surprised looks of everyone around excluding Issei and Asia, who seemed confused. The two once again stared at each other, expressions blank as they peered at one another. You're weird. Kaneko replied blandly, causing amused chuckles to erupt from her fellow devils and another face fault from the shinobi. Rias struggled to contain her smile as she witnessed her peerage interact with the blonde. The spectacle was quite entertaining. It was also appreciated to discover that he does wield power, and a lot of it from what Kaneko was suggesting. A rather unexpected but very welcomed opportunity to strengthen her peerage. She didn't know the shinobi well, but she needed more pieces and she trusted her rook's judgment. Seems like she has a new member to her family. Naruto-kun, while it is surprising to hear that you have chakra, I think you should know that all of us here excluding you are devils. Rias says casually. Pardon me? Naruto asked, confused as to what devils are. In response to his question, Rias and everyone else suddenly seemed to grow wings, sleek bat-like wings emerging from their back. Rias began to explain about the history of devils, their relationship with the angels and fallen angels, the other pantheons around the world, the devil civil war that followed suit after the Great War, and about the reincarnation system that the Mao Beelzebub created. All this information Naruto soaked quietly. It would have surprised many, but Naruto was quite intelligent and perceptive. He could understand and grasp many meanings when others who were supposedly more intelligent and observant would not. He was simply dead last in the academy because he saw no reason to apply himself when his education was hampered and sabotaged by the adults. It was only much later that Irika came to care for him, but even then, a single teacher versus the entire staff. He was far from stupid, but when almost all the staff were deadest on ensuring he didn't perform well, it was no wonder that he was unwilling to heed the lesson taught in class if he would work just to fail in the end because of the ignorance of people. So just to summarize, the world is composed of many different factions or pantheons. The devil faction that you all belong to is part of the biblical pantheon. There was a three-way war between angels, fallen angels and devils. It lasted for centuries and ended with no victor, but the original Satans died. Taking a deep breath, Naruto continued. The children of the Satans wanted to break the ceasefire, but there were many other devils who wished to no longer be at war, and due to these different ideologies, started a civil war that ended with the anti-Satan faction winning. Naturally, new Satans rose to rule the underworld, and one of them created a system to help repopulate devils because devils have a really low birth rate. Did I get everything right? Naruto asked calmly, locking eyes with the equally calm Rias. That is correct, Naruto-kun, although you don't seem too surprised, Rias stated, a soft smile on her breathtaking visage as she appraised the handsome blonde. Naruto smiled back. It takes a lot to really faze me. And seriously, it did, recalling the events of his life, from getting stabbed in the chest by his supposedly best friend, to learning that pain destroyed Konoha with a single move and witnessing his handiwork. Not much shocked the blonde nowadays. I appreciate you telling me about the world, Rias, but I'm assuming that there is a reason as to why you're revealing all of this. Naruto questioned, although he had a good idea of what she had in mind. I want you to join my peerage. Becoming a devil, you will find many benefits such as an elongated lifespan, night vision, increased strength and speed. You can even gain a harem like how Issei-kun aspires to achieve. You have everything to gain by joining, Rias proposed confidently, feeling self-assured about the blonde's choice. Thank you for the offer, but no. Naruto declined politely. As the little sister of the Crimson Satan, people doted on Rias, her status as heir to the house of Gremory and being the little sister of Lucifer, not mentioning her bewitchingly seductive looks, made Rias unused to any form of rejection. One could say that the only form of rejection she had ever received was at the hands of her parents, who refused to cancel her arranged marriage. As someone who was used to getting her way, she couldn't refrain herself from being shocked by the polite rejection she just received. BB, but why? She stuttered, eyes wide as she looked at the first person to refuse her since her parents. Naruto closed his eyes as he remembered the promises he made, the dreams he planned to achieve, the vow he made in front of perv Jiraiya-sensei's grave. Opening his eyes, Naruto locked gazes with Rias, intense cerulean blue meeting a kind yet startled beautiful turquoise. Rias, there's a lot that I need to that I must accomplish. Joining you would prevent or slow me down from achieving those goals. I can't join you as a devil. However, Naruto gave a small smile as he looked at her, and then at everyone else. I would love to be friends with all of you, no doubt you're a rowdy but genuine lot. At that everyone grinned, even Kaneko and Asia gave a small and timid smile respectively. Rias blinked, staring at him for a moment until she broke out into a laugh, taking even her peerage members by surprise as she didn't laugh often with people she wasn't too familiar with. I hope you know that once you achieve your goals, I will have you join my peerage, Rias proclaimed, eyes twinkling in amusement and mirth as she eyed the whiskered man with surprising tenderness. How about a bet? I face you all at the same time, and if I win, you help me get settled here in Ko since I'm not from around here. If you win, then I will join you for sure once I am done fulfilling my promises, Naruto proposed, a challenging gleam nesting in his eyes. Pride was felt by all manner of people, from the most heroic to the most cowardly. Everyone possessed pride. Naruto knew that by challenging all of them at once, their pride wouldn't allow them to back out from this bet, especially if they thought he was weak due to being human. Cutie pie, I don't think you're giving us credit where it's due. To take on all of us you'd have to be very strong, Akino replied back sweetly, though the irritated look in her eye betrayed how she felt about the bet. It's alright to be scared, Akino, though I do promise to take it easy on you all, Naruto responded back, perfectly aware that he succeeded in pissing everyone off. He tried not to think about what Akino called him. He blushed enough times for today as it was. Seething on the inside, Rias clenched her knuckles as she regarded the blonde. It did not matter that he was most definitely the most handsome man she had ever laid eyes on. No one insulted her and her precious servants, and got away with it. Naruto-kun, we accept your challenge. Forest of Ko Town. 20 feet apart, the distance that separated shinobi and devils as they glared at one another. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki suddenly grinned, a sadistic and predatory grin that unnerved the devils and had them incredibly wary as they appraised the blonde. Last chance to back out, guys, you won't like the outcome of this fight, Naruto stated, very much aware that his offer would be refused. If anything, you should be careful, Naruto-kun, we are a very capable group, Rias replied while puffing her chest up, her competitive nature taking a hold of her. You've been very, very naughty. I will enjoy punishing you, Akino chirped, a sly and teasing smile forming on her face. Naruto was immediately reminded of the Chunin exam proctor. What was her name again? Anko? Good luck, Naruto, you will need it, Kiba said confidently, a sword in his hand as he got into his stance. It's a sad day for you, team, Issei roared, the boosted gear ready and active on his arm. Kaneko stared at the blonde warily, the only one to take the blonde most seriously in the group. Having sensed just how massive his chakra reserves were, and how dense it was, Kaneko knew that the fight wouldn't be as easy as her friends were expecting. Let's not waste any more time, I'm ready, Naruto declared, bringing out his hand and arching out his palm in a come-at-me gesture. Eager to make Naruto regret his words, Kiba rushed at Naruto with a burning demonic sword, thrusting his sword towards the shinobi's stomach. The Prince of Ko was horrified when his blade easily pierced his fellow blonde's belly. Staring at Naruto's visage, the Bishinin found himself taken aback by the smug smile on the shinobi's face. Great clone explosion, Naruto whispered, his form glowing, then erupting into a small explosion, one that shocked the Gremory group as they watched Kiba's injured form flying back to them. Now would be a good time to mention that one of my abilities is being able to form copies of myself, and that they can explode at will, Naruto announced from behind them, spooking the devil peerage as they immediately turned around to face him. Ugh, Kiba moaned out in discomfort as he got up, his body in pride and pain as he stood alongside his fellow peerage members. His discomfort lessened as Asia proved her worth and healed him quickly. Kiba, Kaneko, you both will attack him simultaneously while me and Akino fire spells at him from above. Don't hold back and be ready to get away from Naruto if it's his clones who can explode. Asia, stay close to us, and Issei, keep charging the boosted gear. Akino, hold your lightning spell and get ready to merge it with my power of destruction. Rias instructed them all, as she, Akino, Asia and Issei flew to the sky while Kaneko and Kiba tensed their legs, ready to jump at the shinobi. Knowing the value in teamwork and just how true that there was strength in numbers, Naruto dashed towards Kaneko and Kiba, throwing a smoke bomb between the devils. Smoke engulfed the area, masking the shinobi from the eyes of the devils above. Kaneko felt an adrenaline spike as she peered around for the blonde. Unable to spot him, she relied on her Nekasha-blessed senses to find him, eyes widening marginally as she sensed him right underneath the blonde knight. Kiba, get out of there! Sadly, her warning came a little too late as Naruto's hands emerged from the ground near Kiba's feet, grabbed his ankles and pulled Kiba down until only his head peeked out from the ground. Headhunter no Jutsu, Naruto whispered. He got back up. I think that's the name, but if I'm wrong, I'd appreciate y'all telling me what it is. Get me out of here! Kiba tried to move and stir but failed to budge. The Nekomato pulled back her fist, ready to strike and shatter the ground up until she felt a presence behind her. Rotating on her heel, Kaneko struck out her punch only for Naruto to sidestep, grab her arm and fling her towards Rias. The Gremory air reeled back in shock as she saw her precious rook soaring to her from the smoke, the air knocked out from her when Kaneko's hard head crashed into her stomach. Forming a big magic circle, Akino expelled out her energy in the form of a large blast of wind that blew out the smoke, revealing Kiba still buried in the ground but no shinobi. Now knowing that the shinobi was more than capable to be able to sneak up on her, she and Asia quickly regrouped with Kaneko and Rias, both of them up and out for blood. Issei meanwhile was next to blonde Bishinin, and it took a while but he finally freed Kiba from his restrictive prison, the Bishinin and the pervert bolting to their allies in an instant. Right away all 6 devils flew up, clear away from the forest and the ground where the shinobi might pop up. I'm sorry Bucho, he was way too fast, faster than even Kiba. Kaneko apologized, very aware of the frustration rolling off her king, a frustration felt by them all as they had a terrible start in this battle. It's not your fault, Kaneko-chan. Naruto-kun is just a lot more capable than I had imagined. As the strategist in our group, the fault is mine, Rias consoled, in no way blaming her rook or her other pieces. Charging up her signature power of destruction but being sure not to go overboard, Rias sent her chaotic destructive power to the ground, intent on injuring the shinobi or at the very least, draw him out from his hiding spot. A large tremor spread across the clearing as her fatal, environmentally unfriendly energy devastated the area. Still no blonde, Rias began to feel nervous as she started to worry over him, anxious to know if he was all right or not. Her worries were unnecessary as Naruto poked his head from underneath the ground just further away from the blast radius. Deciding to be more confrontational, Naruto got out of the ground and quickly jumped away from a lightning spear courtesy of Akino, creating 5 shadow clones to even the odds. Naruto and his clones leaped to the air to greet the devils, all who were ready for him this time. Synchronizing as one, Akino and Rias combined and expelled their attacks in the form of a lethal vermilion lightning heading straight for the Ninetales Jinchuriki and his doppelgangers. Using his clones as jumping pads to get clear from the blood-colored lightning, Naruto was then met with Kaneko and Kiba, who flew at him with the former lashing out with her fist and the latter swinging a creepily-looking demonic sword at him. In an impressive display of agility that would put even the most agile of humans in this world to shame, Naruto weaved through their attacks and struck them both, sending them flying to the ground unconscious. Creating another shadow clone who understood its purpose, Naruto was spun and catapulted by his clone very quickly to the rest of the peerage. Angling his body to the side to avoid the dragon shot courtesy of Issei, he raised both his legs and struck Issei and Akino when they were at striking distance, the power behind his strike sending them soaring to the ground. From there Naruto grabbed Rias by her calf when she tried to fly away, and with considerable strength, threw the screaming Gremory heiress to the floor. He ignored the shivering Asia and landed softly on the floor. Naruto grinned softly at the scene he caused. I think it's fair to say that I won, right? Why yes, Rias stuttered, utterly dumbfounded, dazed and in pain with the light work Naruto made of them. Occult Research Club. Choosing the couch which afforded the best view of the room, Naruto sat down and was surprised at how soft it was. Looking up, Naruto felt a bit weirded out seeing everyone just stare at him. It made the blonde feel partially bad for making such easy work of them, though he had honestly thought that they were stronger than what he had seen earlier. Well, perhaps I should have held back more, something to consider for next time if there is a next time. Cutie pie, you didn't tell us you were so strong, Akino purred teasingly, delighted at how he flushed pink. Cute, shy, and strong, most certainly her type of man. Ignore my queen, Naruto-kun, I'll help you settle in personally. I'd be happy to help and teach you about Ko Town and its people. Rias nodded at him, gracing the blonde with a small smile. Naruto smiled back gratefully, internally aware that he owed this young woman and Akino a lot for taking him in and healing him. Thank you, Rias. I really appreciate the help. It's no problem. Oh, before I forget, I'll have you enrolled with us at Ko Academy. That way you get to continue your education, and we get to see each other more often. Rias said cheerfully, very pleased with her quick thinking. Naruto immediately reeled back, not ready and never will be at the prospect of school. Getting ready to refuse her, he opened his mouth and quickly closed it. A good shinobi always blends in UG. Naruto, what's your age? Kiba questioned him, very curious and musing about the enormous power gap that existed between him and his fellow blonde. Surely it would make sense that he was at least 18 or 19 years old. I'm 16, turning 17 soon, Naruto answered, shocking everyone and damaging their pride that someone so young laid waste to them all. Then you'll be in second year with Kiba. I'll have you two be class together, and then I'd be very happy to give you a tour of the academy. Akino interrupted Rias, suppressing an amused smile at the annoyed look her favorite redhead sent her. So what do you think, cutie pie? You happy to spend more time with me? Akino winked playfully. I'd be happy spending more time with a friend, but I do have to ask, why do you keep calling me cutie pie? Naruto asked, a little embarrassed, and yet secretly pleased at the unique nickname. His question made her giggle as she responded back to him, that's easy, it's because you are a cutie pie. Her words made him blush and nod shyly. It wasn't that he thought he was ugly or anything, but being known as the Jinchuriki in Konoha made any interest non-existent. His brash and obnoxious behavior didn't help much either. However, he did meet a lot of women outside the village who complimented him on his appearance. Only thing was that they were much more subtle with their feelings and actions. Dealing with Rias, who was pretty daring, and Akino, who somehow took it a step further, was a unique but an enjoyable experience. Really, the only woman who he could remember being so forward with the way they felt towards him was Hinata, and even then, it was a one-time thing. Hinata. He had no idea that she loved him. It made the blonde incredibly happy but also depressed that he couldn't confront her to try and make it work. Any women who would jump and willingly face a monster of an S-rank shinobi to save him was he had no idea how to describe such a courageous and amazing woman. But what if he couldn't go back and he was stuck here, never mind even becoming Hokage or the promise to Sakura? How would he confront Hinata or achieve world peace as he vowed to do? Yuto, Naruto, are you there? Rias waved her hands to his face, concerned with the lack of reactions that she'd been getting from the blonde for the past minute. I'm here, Rias. Sorry about that, was just thinking about something. What were you saying? Naruto asked politely. I was asking how you feel about joining Ko Academy tomorrow? Rias inquired as she walked back to her desk and sat down. I would like that. Naruto stuttered shakily. He knew it was a logical decision to join. He would blend in while gaining information and knowledge, but past experiences made him weary of schools in general. Rias was incredibly pleased at his answer. That's great, we're so happy that you'll join us. The crimson-haired devil then turned her attention to her servants. Now everyone, it's late and we have school tomorrow, so return home and have a good night. Have a good night, Bucho. Good night, Akino, Kiba, Asia, and Naruto-senpai. Kaneko left the room, completely forgetting about or ignoring the pervert who slumped at her coldness. Bucho, everyone, have a good night. Kiba uttered as he followed Kaneko out of the room. Good night, everyone. It was nice to meet you, Naruto-san. Asia smiled shyly at the blonde, who couldn't help but smile back. Rias, Bucho, Akino-senpai, have a good night, and team, though I lost to you today, know that I will become stronger and I will beat you and get all the girls. Issei loudly proclaimed. Naruto looked at him dully but nodded. I hope you achieve your dreams, Hentai-kun. Issei actually looked proud of the title bestowed, and Naruto couldn't help but deadpan at that observation. Definitely worse than Jiraiya-sensei. He watched as the pervert and Asia walked away together. Shifting his gaze towards Akino, Naruto deadpanned again as he saw her creep behind the seated Rias with a creepy and perverted grin. Good night, Rias-chan, Akino purred from behind her king. Rias felt herself being pulled back into a pair of large and soft breasts that enveloped the back of her head and the sides of her face, the alluring scent of jasmine and strawberries flooding her nostrils. Getting up calmly from her chair, Rias turned around and hugged her best friend, her own marshmallowy soft breasts squishing against Akino's slightly larger ones. Off to the side, Naruto looked to the side to offer them some privacy, aware that the lewd display of sexuality was in actuality two women just showering each other with sisterly love, even if it didn't look very sisterly. Have a good night, Akino-chan, Rias said genuinely, a soft and beautiful smile being directed at her sister in everything but blood, a smile Akino fully reciprocated as she hugged back and kissed her best friend on the cheek before letting go. Sashaying her way to the blonde, Akino took Naruto by surprise when she hugged him too, giggling lightly at the flustered look the blonde had been having a lot lately. She gasped lightly as Naruto wrapped his strong and muscular arms around her, her cheeks tinting pink, as she laid her head on his upper chest. They stayed like that for a couple of seconds, the attractive pair content in each other's embrace. Feeling Naruto shift around a little bit, Akino removed her head from his upper chest to look up at Naruto, her cheeks flushing into a darker shade of rose as the blonde gazed at her. "Thank you again for healing me, Akino. I'm really grateful for that." Naruto spoke sincerely, his rough childhood making him humble to those kind enough to help him. "It's no problem, Naruto-kun. I couldn't just let you die, you know. If I can help someone, then I will," Akino replied back earnestly, earning a small real smile from the Jinchuriki. "Have a good night," Akino uttered shyly, letting go of the blonde and walking away from the shinobi and the redhead, a smile blossoming on her face as she heard Naruto mumble a good night. "You still owe me an apology, Naruto-kun, for how we first met." Rias blankly stared at him, her lips twitching as she tried to stop a smile from popping up when she saw him reel back and cringe. "Sorry about that, Rias. I hope you're not too upset about that," Naruto apologized. Rias said nothing as she got up and walked up to Naruto, grabbing his hand and dragging him away from the clubroom much to his confusion. "Where are we going, Rias?" Tossing a glance over her shoulder, Rias smiled coyly. "You will make it up to me by sleeping with me in bed." "Oh, that sounds good to me. Wait, what?" Naruto stood at the gates of Koa Academy. His head hung low as he fought the sadness and crippling depression that gripped him the moment he laid eyes on the menacing and ominous gates of the academy. He'd been standing there for an entire minute. Might as well just end this already, Naruto thought wearily. A bit off to the side, Rias failed to suppress a smile as she stood alongside Naruto. She found amusement in his struggles to get past the gate, as amusing as it was though, it had nothing on the delightful reaction the blonde made when he found her on his bed naked. Just thinking about it had Rias giggle as she remembered his incredibly flushed and embarrassed face. Flashback no jutsu. Before achieving peace or becoming Hokage, I vowed that I will destroy this blasted sun, Naruto sluggishly thought, irritated with the rays of light that pierced through the covered curtains and shined right at him. Trying to get up, Naruto found his body to be heavier than usual. He looked down and suppressed a massive nosebleed as he realized what type of situation he somehow landed in. A woman slept on top of him. From the feel of her body, Naruto discerned it was a very curvy woman. The crimson-red hair told him it was Rias, and the shinobi gulped as he felt her bare body pressing against his. She wore no clothes. No, don't think like that, Naruto. She's probably only in her underwear, and that's something you will not think about. Thankfully, Naruto didn't get an eyeful as the blanket that was supposed to cover his form was draped over her, or rather their combined body, shielding her modesty from any prying or lustful eyes. He tried his best not to think about how large her bust was or just how insanely soft it felt, regrettably for the potentially future Hokage. Being a healthy young man and coupled with the fact that the woman on top of him was very voluptuous meant Naruto couldn't suppress those indecent thoughts entirely. Fortunately or unfortunately depending on the perspective, Rias yawned and woke up. It helped the blonde with managing his thoughts while simultaneously causing him to tense up in case she grew rageful once she would become aware of the situation. His worries were quite unnecessary as she eyed the blonde and smiled brightly. "Good morning, Naruto-kun. Did you sleep well?" Rias asked from atop the shinobi's chest. "I did, though I have to ask, why were you sleeping on top of me? And why without a shirt or bra?" "I slept on top of you because you make a very good and warm pillow." Her lips curved into a sultry smile as she inched her face closer to his. "I don't wear anything because I like to sleep naked." "And then naked," he stuttered, mortified and embarrassed on her behalf. His reaction caused her to chuckle before she winked at him saucily. Having had her fill of teasing the blonde for the morning, Rias got up, flashing Naruto in the process with a view of heaven, two large and shapely boobs jiggling and forcing the blonde to close his eyes, a hint of crimson on his cheeks from the lewd but enjoyable view. Rias inwardly smiled as she got off the bed. Almost everyone she met would have been utterly happy to ogle her body if given the chance, yet this human, an admittedly powerful and a very gorgeous one, choosing to do the opposite was very refreshing and sweet. She wasn't blind to the quick admiring glances he sent her, but just as he would start to gawk, he'd look the other way and try his best not to stare even if she didn't mind it. Rias felt her respects and admiration swell up as she thought of how polite he'd been trying to be. "I'll go take a quick shower, Naruto-kun. Feel free to raid the fridge, okay?" "Thank you, Rias, for letting me stay here. And are you decent?" The shinobi sat up but still kept his eyes shut just in case he got another eyeful of breasts. I'm wearing a shirt, Naruto-kun, you can open your eyes. Rias voiced out sensuously as she headed towards the bathroom, doing her utmost best not to giggle as she looked quite forward to observing the blonde's reaction. I'll go make us break FAF. Naruto trailed off as he opened his eyes and was promptly dazed by the sight of Rias's huge ass swaying from side to side as she made her way to the door leading her to the shower. His brain function ceased to work as he gaped at a whole lot of women wrapped in one mesmerizing and curvaceous package. The Jinchuriki was unaware that the young woman whose fat but he was currently gawking at was taking note of his flabbergasted features with utmost pleasure. Entering the bathroom and closing the door, Rias felt her lips curve into a very delighted and sultry smile as she thought of the blonde's reaction. She did wear a shirt, she just didn't say anything about wearing anything else, however. Though he tried his best not to peek, even Naruto fell prey to Rias's magnificent and beautiful form. A notion that deeply pleased the stunning redhead. Naruto belonged to her, not her queen. It irritated her greatly yesterday to see Akino and her cutie pie have such good chemistry. And that hug. Rias's beautiful turquoise orbs turned into a malicious crimson as she recalled every interaction between the duo, her wrath and bloodlust spiking as her devil instincts urged her to claim and own Naruto, while annihilating all who would even think about even spending a second with him. It wasn't that she felt love at first sight when she locked her eyes on Naruto. No, she didn't believe in love at first sight even if she wished it were true. It just happened to be physical attraction at its finest that she felt for the blonde. It also just so happened that unlike most in terms of personality, like a certain Phoenix devil, Naruto showed so far that he wasn't despicable, or a horrible excuse of a man. No, the only personality traits that Rias could discern from the blonde was that he was kind, sweet, shy to womanly affection, brash when annoyed or insulted, confident in battle, and was trying his best to be a decent man to a voluptuous woman. Qualities that a devilish woman like herself would enjoy in a man. In simple terms, a very handsome man whose personality was like that of a chivalrous and noble warrior. Naruto, you are mine, Rias murmured alluringly. Back with the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. What Jiraiya-sensei wouldn't give to be here in this world. Naruto felt a sad grin cross his visage as he thought of his master and father figure. He'd enjoy the view, but more than that, he'd want to make sure that the world was safe and at peace. Bless his noble and pervy soul. Knowing that staying here would be counterproductive, the shinobi stood up and made his way to the kitchen, trying to decide what he and Rias should have for the morning. Though ramen was and always will be his favorite food, it didn't mean that the blonde didn't enjoy eating something other than his comfort food. In the 3-year training trip with his master, he did get stronger, yes, but that training trip was more of a learning about life and a bonding experience between godfather and godson. Saying he was all rainbows and sunshines when he learned of this revelation was not true. He did feel immensely happy to learn that he had a family, but he also felt livid to know that he had a godfather who wasn't there for the first 13 years of his life. It was perhaps a week later that he had forgiven his godfather. That training trip helped him learn a lot about what it meant to be part of a family, how to cook different kinds of food and which food was more nutritional. He learned about the different customs and cultures in the different part of the elemental nation. The shinobi wasn't as strong as he would have liked to be, but he learned a lot on how to live life and about the world he had lived in. I'll need to find a place to train. I cannot be weak ever again. Naruto thought solemnly, a quicksilver image of Hinata being stabbed by Pain's rod flashing across his mind, hardening his steel-like resolve. Opening the fridge, Naruto grabbed 3 eggs, cracked them on top of a pan and placed said pan on the stove. Thank you, Rias, for teaching me how to use a stove. Grabbing another pan for the tuna, he placed the second pan on the stove and opened the can, emptying out the contents of the container on the second pan. The sweet aroma of eggs and tuna reached the showering redhead, a healthy and delicious scent that lulled her into finishing quickly so she could devour the flavorful breakfast made by the handsome shinobi. That smells good. I didn't know you were a good cook, Naruto-kun, Rias said as she entered the kitchen and sat at the table, being treated to the sight of heavenly scrambled eggs and tasty tuna. Kaneko would eat all of this, especially the fish. Rias felt her lips draw into an amused and fond smile at the thought of her cute little rook. I hope you enjoy, although I'm afraid that I'm not the best cook, unfortunately, Naruto said modestly. I'd rather eat good food made by friends instead of the best food made by strangers. Then I'd better make sure to cook for you often. Rias giggled at that. Breakfast for her was usually spent alone and was not very pleasant. She could definitely get used to this. Flashback no jutsu end. Knowing that classes would start soon and being the responsible student and upperclassman that she was, Rias looped her arm with the blonde, shivering slightly at the contact made as she dragged him with her to school. No sooner did the duo pass the gate, every pair of eyes in the courtyard and in the classroom that could look outside gazed at them. The normal occurrence that usually occurred when Rias passed the gates of the academy was heart-shaped eyes appearing on the faces of the male population who couldn't resist the enthralling beauty that she possessed. The female population was a mix, with most praising the Gremory heiress with star-filled gazes, admiring her as their dreamy older sister figure to a very unhealthy degree, and the remaining treating her the exact same way the boys would. It was the standard for Rias, and the same could be said for Aquino. Every day attended for the last 3 whole years would show the exact same kind of devotion and love that Rias and Aquino would receive daily. One might even say that it was tradition, which is why when Naruto, a very handsome young man, came in arm with one of the 2 great ladies, it destroyed tradition. For the first time in 3 years, no one paid attention to the gorgeous redhead as they scrutinized the blonde intensely. Who the hell is he? Kaya. He's so handsome. Oh my god! What a stud! How dare he lay his hands on Rias? Isn't it obvious, he and Rias are a couple? That's so cute. No, you idiot, no one is worthy of Rias Oni-sama. What are you talking about? Of course he's worthy of her. Nuh. Rias-sama. I love you. I hate him. The delighted squeals and the rage-filled screams released by the students stopped the attractive pair right in their tracks, both wide-eyed and bewildered as they witnessed chaos, pure unadulterated chaos taking a hold of the students and turning them into mindless, angry savages. Though all the women in Ko found the blonde to be extremely handsome, most even believing him to be far more attractive than the precious Prince of Ko, the devotion and love they felt for Rias made them place her on a pedestal high above where none might reach. The only exception being Aquino, who was placed on a similar pedestal as her best friend. Which is why, despite his attractiveness, most of the women were siding with the male population, fuming with fury and wanting to kill the blonde for his atrocities, breathing in the same space as her, coming in the gates together with her, being arm in arm with her. Such obscenity and outrage just simply could not be forgiven. Through the unfiltered gibberish being bellowed for all of Ko to hear, a single voice pierced through the haze of madness. Death to that handsome piece of shit, an average brown-haired student roared. The infamous Issei Hayadu, a member of the despised, the perverted trio. As a man with deep admiration for the female form, he despised those who were appreciated by the beautiful women, his jealousy stemming from his lack of familiarity with any attractive women who would pay him with her attention. Excluding Asia, the only beautiful women that paid any attention to him were Riasbucho and Aquino-senpai. They showered him with their time, and Issei instantly grew to love his sad and pathetic life until they suddenly forgot he even existed. The cause of such a tragedy and heartbreak, that annoyingly handsome ass. If it wasn't bad enough that Naruto's face was chiseled to perfection, then it was that body of his that had Issei green with envy. How could he compete against that? The only way to win against him was to rally many allies and swarm the blonde together. Like a colony of insects following their queen, almost all the students of Ko followed his command and ran straight for the blonde, intending to kill him right there and there. Issei's thunderous voice was heard by all the students in Ko. Those in the classroom sprinting out of the room regardless of their teacher's disapproval. The few students who have instantly fallen in love with the new blonde were swallowed by the malicious hive. The student council, despite being vastly capable, were for once useless, as there were simply too many students to stop. In the entire history of Ko Academy, never once was there ever such a riot, yet in the 2 minutes Naruto stepped foot in the academy, he caused an uproar that had almost all the students go mindless and followed the command of the leader of the perverted trio. Naruto quickly turned to Rias and swept her off her feet. Ignoring her shriek of surprise, he bolted out of the academy, very much convinced and affirmed in his view that all schools were simply hell on earth. The masses of students saw red as they witnessed the new student pick up one of the precious great 2 ladies. They all chased after him, speeding past the gates of the school and out of Ko Academy. Ko Academy, a prestigious and extremely accomplished school with a reputation of having their students attend top universities such as Oxford or Harvard, was for once not deserving of their reputation, as the only ones left in the school were the staff and faculty, the student council members and the occult research club members, and the few students who were in support of the blonde and redhead's relationship. Rias's apartment. Rias's lungs hurt in all her 17 years of life. She hadn't laughed so much like she had today. It had been a few minutes since Naruto swept her off her feet and sprinted away, and just thinking about it made Rias struggle to stop giggling, a struggle that was all but not, as she gave up and guffawed to her heart's content. As a heiress to the clan of Gremory and the little sister to the Satan Lucifer, Rias was forced into maintaining an image. She had to look stern and calculating. Her beautiful aquamarine orb should contain an arctic coldness, as she appraised and concluded affairs with all she associated with. It made the beautiful young woman unable to enjoy the finer details of life much. Her amusement was sparingly little because of who she was related to and the expectations that were placed on her. Worse still was that her own father condemned her to an arranged marriage with Riser Phoenix, an abhorrent and detestable devil who gathered and treated women as trophies. He had no consciousness and no goodness in him to share. Despite vehemently telling him that she does not want to marry him, Riser was still intent on forcing her onto this unwanted marriage. Rias simply just couldn't enjoy herself much when she was out of the comfort of her own home, where she was constantly having to present herself as a prim and proper lady, and with the stress and worry of marrying Riser Phoenix, such circumstances equaled into Rias not having a fun and carefree lifestyle. Not that it meant that Rias hated her life, definitely not. After all, she still has her precious peerage. They are her family, and she'd die for them without question, but she could do without the unwanted marriage, and she could do more fun. Fun that this handsome and beautiful human was providing her with. She knew that she and Aquino were loved by the student masses, but to react in such a manner, even she did not expect such a reaction. She could only imagine the look on Sona's face, and winced at the chaos she unintentionally caused for her friend. After all, it was her who technically started the riot by looping her arm with Naruto and dragging him inside, though the fault wasn't entirely hers. She'll be having a long conversation with Issei about this soon. I'm dearly sorry, Sona. Rias almost prayed that her friend wouldn't cry over what happened. Sona took her job as student council president way too seriously, no doubt horrified by the unforeseen chaos that ensued. But on the bright side, at least she could read some manga and she could introduce Naruto to anime. Bad idea. What if he thinks that she's a weirdo? Aquino already made fun of her enough as it is by calling her a Japanese nerd. Naruto definitely does not need to know. Taking a small glance at the blonde, Rias tried and failed to stop a smile from appearing as she noticed the relieved look in his eyes. That was, she paused, searching for the right word. Very crazy, Naruto helpfully supplied, internally glad to at least enjoy another day of freedom before officially joining the school. The redhead's smile widened as she nodded her head, in complete agreement with the blonde. And very unique. As interesting as today's morning is, I have been meaning to ask you of two things, Rias, Naruto stated while gazing into her eyes, feeling himself drown in the redhead's hypnotizing sea-green orbs. He caught the questioning and curious look in her eyes and indulged her. I wanted to ask if there's a place where I can train, preferably a large area. Could you help me with that if it's no problem for you? He inquired politely. Naruto knew that he wasn't the most respectful of people. Calling the fifth Hokage grandma wasn't exactly proper etiquette, and that was putting it lightly. However, the blonde realized that one of the many qualities he needed to improve upon was the way he treated people. Even if being polite had nothing to do with world peace, being polite was something expected of a Kage, and that is a goal he is still aiming for. I can help you with a place to train, but I would greatly appreciate it if you would help me and my peerage in training too, Rias stated hopefully, instantly seeing the potential in such an arrangement. She and her peerage would benefit a lot from getting trained by someone so strong. Not to mention that this agreement would help her get closer to Naruto, much closer. I'd be more than happy to help all of you, Naruto replied back earnestly, evoking a small grateful smile from the heiress. The second question I wanted to ask is if you can help me find a house for me to stay in? You've done so much for me already, and I can't keep relying on your kindness and stay in your home. I meant to ask earlier this morning. Naruto's cheeks tinted pink as he recalled the lewdness of today's events before leaving for school, but I kinda got distracted. His blush darkened at the sight of Rias smirking teasingly. This girl had no shame. Naruto-kun, I want you to stay with me here. It can get very lonely when nobody is around. It gets to the point where Aquino-chan sleeps here too sometimes, cause I can't stand just how isolated it can be. You staying here means that I won't be alone when I'm home. It means that I have someone other than Aquino to cuddle with at night. Rias trailed off, giggling at how Naruto's face resembled the color of her hair. It also means that I get to know my new friend better, Rias finished, her tone a mix of sultry teasing and deadly serious. But don't you want some privacy? Even if you don't, aren't you the least bit uncomfortable that you're housing a stranger? You and I don't know each other well. I thought about that and I have nothing to worry about. If you wanted to kill or kidnap me, you could have easily done it when we were at the forest yesterday with my peerage. We stood no chance against you, yet nothing happened to us. Inhaling a deep breath, Rias continued. Yes, we don't know each other too well, but I know enough to know that you wouldn't harm us intentionally. She smiled at the shinobi, her tone genuine and filled with nothing but honesty. As for privacy, just don't come inside my room unless I invite you, and that's it. She'd die from embarrassment if Naruto or anyone else saw the layouts of her room, manga books and anime posters found everywhere, action figures and anime sculptures on her study desk. She will not allow anyone passage to her safe haven. Thank you, Rias. Thank you so much. I suppose one of the many ways I could pull my weight is by cooking breakfast and dinner every day, Naruto jokingly said, internally touched by this woman's kindness, to offer him a place to live for free just like that. He hadn't met many who were this kind and nice to him. You're very welcome. The cooking is also another reason as to why I want you to stay, Naruto-kun. The shinobi failed to suppress a grin at that. Opening his mouth to reply back, he got cut off before he could utter a word as Akino came barging in, heading straight for the blonde and glomping him, much to his surprise and the redhead's annoyance. Oh cutie pie, I'm so glad you are okay. I was so worried when I saw you get chased by those mindless savages. Just say the word and I'll fry them to a crisp. Akino gushed coyly. The Thunder Priestess inwardly laughed at the fuming look sent by her best friend, wrapping her arms tight around the shinobi's back and discreetly sticking her tongue out to her king. Naruto shifted a bit uncomfortably as he felt Akino's breasts pushed against him. He didn't let that deter him as he addressed the voluptuous and kind but teasing women who healed him. I'm okay, Akino, don't worry about me, but thank you for caring. Naruto spoke thankfully, a small upturn of his lips making the usually seductive and beautiful queen of Rias Gremory flush pink as he smiled at her. Pouting lightly, Akino shifted her arms around to place them on his neck, leaning back slightly so she could get a better view of his heart-melting visage. Cutie pie, please call me Akino-chan. Say it with me, Akuno-chan, she drawled out enticingly. The shinobi's eyes wandered to her plump and inviting lips, her soft and melodious voice tickling his ears, and the thought of locking his own lips with Akino's glossy pink ones sent a heat to his body that he struggled to quell. Okay, Akino-chan, he mumbled softly. Get your head checked, you dumb blonde. You can't just kiss someone you met yesterday. Naruto raged at himself. The hell happened to him? It was like he'd been possessed by Jiraiya-sensei. Akino, is there any reason you have come here? Or are you just here to annoy me? Rias asked, thoroughly annoyed with her buxom queen being so grabby and touchy with Naruto. Didn't Akino understand that Naruto was strong and could protect himself? Didn't Akino understand that her touches made him uncomfortable? And didn't Naruto understand that he does not have to call her queen Akino-chan? Era, why are you so mad, Rias-chan? Yes, I didn't acknowledge you until now, but that's because I had to make sure that my cutie pie is okay. Yufufu. Akino giggled. That giggle, the dreamy Wanisama giggle that irritated the hell out of the clan heiress. I'm not mad, Akino, but surely there is a reason for coming here apart from checking to see if Naruto-kun, the guy who beat us yesterday, is okay, Rias stated sarcastically. Letting go of the shinobi, Akino turned her attention to the greedy clan heiress. If you must know, I have come for quite a few reasons. First is because everyone is worried about you. Rias felt guilt churn in her stomach at the thought of her cute servants needlessly stressing about her. Second is to tell you that Sona has dismissed everyone from school today and will hold an assembly tomorrow for all the students of Ko Academy. No doubt about today's entertaining events. Biting her lips to stifle the laugh that wanted to break free, Akino successfully suppressed the laugh but could not hide the amusement and mirth in her eyes. The third reason is because I wanted to spend time with cutie pie here, she said, gesturing to the blushing blonde. Any guilt Rias felt regarding her cute servants vanished as she glared at her queen. Turning to the blonde, who reeled back when her glare made contact with him, he cringed when he noticed the ominous and unfriendly crimson instead of the beautiful and kind bluish emerald spheres that he grew accustomed to seeing in these 2 days. You wanted me to show you a place to train, right? Follow me, Naruto-kun. As for you, whirling her attention to her best friend, her signature power of destruction shrouding her shapely form. She scowled at her queen, who matched her energy output as Akino too was encased by yellow lightning. It's time that I discipline you as your king. The underworld, one of the many Gremory clans, land. You tomato whore. Thunder bitch. Naruto's sweat dropped at the basic yet sort of accurate insults thrown. The only reason he didn't interfere in the ongoing fight between the two was because he could tell that the two of them needed to let out some steam. They were like him and Sasuke before Orochimaru gave Sasuke the hickey. Unlike him and Sasuke, though, these two were much closer if the affection they showed to each other before leaving the clubroom yesterday was any indication. Fortunately enough, the two great ladies seemed to have finally run out of gas if the heavy breathing and the sweat-drenched faces was anything to go by. Sun shining between the two women, both of them stopped charging their attack. As weak as it might have been, either wanted to strike the blonde with their energy. Naruto-kun, get out of there. I need to teach Akino some respect and manners. Even talking seemed to be a difficult course of action for the redhead, her lungs desperately burning for oxygen. Teach me manners and respect. Big talk from a spoiled brat with smaller tits, having been best friends since childhood. Akino knew which words annoyed the hell out of Rias and which made her feel rageful. Right now she did both. What did you say, you fuck? Enough, Naruto bellowed, startling both girls and causing them to finally stop fighting. Gazing at Rias, who flinched at the intensity of his glare, he softened his gaze. Rias, I know you're angry, but fighting with your friends is never enjoyable unless it's a fight to relax or to find out who's stronger. Please don't get too angry. The heiress pouted and looked to the side. It might have looked as though she opposed his opinion, but mentally the heiress did agree with Naruto. Didn't mean that Akino doesn't deserve a spanking with her pod-coated hand. Power of destruction equals pod. Moving his attention to Akino, who unconsciously stood up straight, he tried his best to quell the mirth in his eyes as he addressed her. Akino-chan, there is nothing wrong with annoying your friends, but right now you and her are very tired. Please rest and don't annoy her. Walking to the Thunder Priestess, he grabbed her hand, startling her in the process, and dragged her to Rias, who instantly understood his intentions and rolled her eyes. Shoving the ravenet lightly to Rias, both girls stared at one another blankly. Growing annoyed with the silence, Akino sighed in mock annoyance and opened her arms in a hug-me gesture. Needing no further encouragement, Rias moved and hugged Akino tightly. Placing her mouth an inch away from Akino's ear, she smirked when she felt her queen shiver from the proximity. You're a meanie, Akino-chan. Pulling back slightly from the hug so Rias could study her features, Akino presented a very lewd smile that abruptly had Rias blushing and shying away from her queen's horny stare. I'm only a meanie for you, sweetie, she purred erotically. Sorry for ruining the moment, but I'm going to train. Do either of you want to join me? Naruto asked sheepishly, an awkward grin on his face as the moment between the two curvy women quickly reminded him of a specific scene in his master's Aika Aika series, Love in the Family. Just thinking about those days where he was forced into proofreading all the pervy books made by his godfather had him flustered, no questions behind it that Jiraiya-sensei would find inspiration from this moment. Train? You want us to train right now? When we're so tired? Rias exclaimed dumbfounded. Surely he couldn't be serious. Right now she and Akino were exhausted, smelly and drenched in sweat. She needed to desperately take a shower. Cutie Pie will train, but not today. Us girls need to look and smell good, and right now we aren't either. Akino unknowingly voiced out her king's thoughts. It's alright, but how will I get back if I want to stay here? With this, Naruto-kun, Rias handed him a fancy-looking paper. This is a flyer, Naruto-kun. It's distributed to humans with strong desires so they can summon us devils and we form contracts with them. It's one of the ways to progress from a low-class devil to a high-class devil. This is my personal flyer. Once you're done training, just hold on to it and desire me to come. Seriously? I just hold on to this paper and I just have to wish for you to come and you'll be here? Naruto asked incredulously, looking at the paper and seeing nothing special, just a small red circle with small decorations around. Yup, all it really does is let you summon me when you're done training. The amusement and mirth in her eyes clear for the skeptical blonde to see. He nodded slowly, skeptical as he believed her. She hadn't given him a reason to doubt her. Rias-chan, you and I can ogle Cutie Pie later. Right now we need to take a hot soapy shower. Grabbing her king by the arm, ignoring the look of disapproval on her face, Akino looked at the shinobi and blew him a kiss. See you later, Naruto-kun. Being inside a magic circle and teleporting somewhere else was a strange experience. Seeing it happen but not being inside was also weird but kinda cool. Truly surveying the area now that he wasn't paying attention to the two devils, Naruto was slack-jawed at the enormity of this place. The clearing spread out for miles upon miles, the size of this training ground being 1/4 the size of Konoha. Not exactly what the Jinchuriki had in mind, but he was certainly not complaining. For a training ground, this is really, really impressive, huh? At least I can take full advantage of this place and really train. Naruto murmured, bringing his hands in the cross formation and creating 1,000 clones. Alright, listen up all of you, we have much that needs improvement. Separate yourself into 5 groups of 200. Once you are all grouped, each of you will work either separately or with another group. Group 1 and 2, you both will work on chakra control. We need to stop relying on clones to help form Rasengan for us. Group 3 will practice the basics of the strong fist that Gai-sensei showed us. Do not stop practicing until you have mastered the form and movement of the strong fist. Group 4, you all are gonna work on recreating Nagato's almighty push, Shinra Tensei, with wind chakra. Keep a huge distance between y'all so as to not kill the other clone or clones accidentally. Group 5, you guys will be split into 2, the first half will be on standby, ready to replace any clone from any group who dispelled while training. The second half is going to train alongside the Taijutsu group or group 3 in the strong fist while I train my body, then meditate. Once I'm done with that, the second half is going to be sparing with me. Now enough wasting time. Let's get stronger. Time skip, 11 hours. 11 hours of pure torture. What he just put himself through for training would make even the youthful bushy-browed duos cringe in horror and run away. Each minute seemed to equal 10 minutes, an hour seemed to equal 3 hours. To the blonde who trained from 9 in the morning to 8 in the late evening, he felt like it had been 2 days. It was go hard or go home. He didn't exactly enjoy wheezing for breath as he exercised, but he needed to be strong, and that meant pushing till he reached his limit and beyond. His chakra control still wasn't at the level he wanted it to be, but at least it happens to be much better compared to pre-workout chakra control. The strong fist can confidently say that the basics was mastered. Now all he had to do was train and work on the advanced forms of said taijutsu style found in the scroll that Guy-sensei gifted him with a while back. The scroll in question being sealed on his wrist. The almighty push it would take a while before he could make any gateway with that technique. The shinobi was determined to have that jutsu in his arsenal. Having been on the receiving end of that technique more times than he liked, he could see just how useful and valuable it really was. The idea he had in mind was simply expelling wind chakra from his body either in the direction he was facing or in a spherical direction that targeted everyone with a powerful force of shockwave that could move even a mountain back. Like the original almighty push, the more chakra expelled, the stronger the wind blast that would catapult his enemies, or their attacks as far away from him as the chakra output would allow. Unfortunately, such a jutsu wouldn't be a part of his arsenal anytime soon. Walking to the nearest tree, the Jinchuriki sat down and laid his back on the trunk. Exhausted and beat from all the training he accomplished for today, he didn't even have enough chakra to try summoning jutsu. It did, however, make the blonde wonder about Konohagakure and everyone. Was his mother figure Tsunade in good health? How about Irika-sensei and the ramen stand owners? Konohamaru? His former classmates? What about everyone else? Without Sage Mode, Naruto wasn't a good censor, but even he could tell that everyone really did come back from the dead. Grateful as he was to Nagato, anxiety still gripped the blonde shinobi. How would everyone continue living when their home and everything else was in shambles? Wouldn't the other villages think they are weak for falling against one man? Leader of the Akatsuki or not, especially when the one who beat Pain was not present anymore? And what about Hinata? Why would someone as weak as you try to resist? Why would you fight me when you know that you'll only die? Those words, uttered by the leader of S-rank criminals, formed into a question that resonated with the Jinchuriki. Why would Hinata jump in to save him? What did he do to inspire her? And did she really love him? If so, was he really deserving of that love, when that love got her killed? Naruto didn't know the answer to any of his own mental questions, but he did know one thing, the answer to all that could be answered only by confronting Hinata Hyuga. And only God knows when he'd return back home. Above everyone else, there was no other individual who Rias respected more than her mother, her doting mother who would always tuck her in bed once she felt sleepy as a child, would always comb and brush her hair when it was frizzly and messy. She remembered how she once scraped her knee and her mother would not let her out of her sight for 2 full weeks. When questioned as to why she was worrying so much, one Venelana Gremory gave a response that made Rias feel like the most precious girl in the world. "You're my heart, Rias. If anything were to happen to you, then I can no longer exist." It hurt so much that her loving mother would agree with her father that an arranged marriage between her and that barbarous oaf was beneficial for her future. It hurt so much that she even stopped communicating with her altogether. Having waited for Naruto for so long, Rias once recalled a lesson that her mother taught her before she cut off contact with her parents. Imagine you're holding something light like paper, and you're holding it with your arms stretched out. It may not feel heavy, and it is something insignificant to hold onto, but Rias, the longer you hold something, even if it's small and unimportant, the more burdening it would be. Problems and feelings are the same way. Let's say you had a small, tiny problem that you didn't consider to be of importance. The longer it stays there, the bigger the problem will become before it feels very suffocating for you. It made plenty sense what her mother told her. Leaving Naruto in the training ground with her flyer didn't seem like an issue, but as the hours rolled by, the more she began to stress and worry about him. Why was he taking so long? Was he alright? Did someone or something attack him? What happened to him? Each inquiry made only seemed to heighten the tension she felt. There was simply no way that he'd been training for 11 hours. "I'll give him 10 more minutes, and if he doesn't summon me, I'll go to the underworld and find out what's going." A relieved smile split her face, tension fading away from her shoulder, as she felt Naruto call out to her. She blushed a little when she registered his desires to see her. Well, if he wants to see, who am I to deny him, she thought coyly, her heart slightly racing at the prospect of seeing him. forming a magic circle that teleported her right to him. The moment she saw the blonde, Rias acted on her first urge and enveloped him in a tight hug, completely missing the grief that was present in the shinobi's eyes before he schooled himself. "Why didn't you call me till now, Naruto-kun? I was so worried about you," Rias blabbered unintentionally, flushing pink when she realized she revealed the extent of her worries to her crush. "Sorry for worrying you, Rias, I just finished recently." Her reaction was a bit surprising to the Jinchuriki. It was a first that someone worried about him to this extent. It was really nice, and something he could get used to. "Well, I know how you can make it up to me. What can I do so you'd forgive me?" Naruto smiled softly as he gazed at Rias, his eyes unintentionally darting to her lips before he forced it back up. "Call me Rias-chan, that's all you need to do from now on." Naruto abruptly laughed, his chuckles confusing and flustering the young women who pouted at his reaction. "Why'd you laugh, Naruto-kun? It's not funny." "Sorry, Rias-chan, but I honestly thought that you'd want me to cook when we get back or to train your peerage or something. I didn't think it was something simple like adding chan to your name," Naruto stated honestly. "Jerk," she mumbled with a light smile, letting go of the blonde and facing away from him. Conjuring her power and forming another teleportation spell, the blonde and redhead duo left the underworld and arrived back in Rias's residence in Kul. "Were you really training the entire time?" Rias asked curiously. To train for that long was just simply insane. It would, however, explain how he's so strong for a 16-year-old. I won't train you and everyone else that hard though, unless that is what you'd like." Naruto couldn't really see them surviving such training. Hell, he was super fatigued and he was much stronger than everyone else. No offense intended towards Rias and her peerage. "Definitely not, though. Do you have anything in mind for what we should train in? Also, how would you be able to help us in magic spells? Or is that not part of the program?" "Let's continue talking in the kitchen. I'll make us some ramen. It's really, really good. Praise the ramen god for creating such a wonder." "Is ramen your favorite food?" "Of course it is, it's the food of the gods," Naruto proclaimed passionately, his earlier fatigue and exhaustion fading away as he devotedly worshipped his comfort food. "Then I hope you don't disappoint with the ramen," Rias teased him. Naruto scoffed. "Ramen never disappoints." Outrageous and disgraceful. Sona Citri took immense satisfaction in her role as the president of the student council. That role was her pride and joy. The duties done that most would consider tedious and boring brought her joy like no other. As student council president, she had full authority and jurisdiction to confront, punish, and lecture any student who weren't performing to the best of their ability. Being student council president meant she could help guide those lost and helpless students in forging a better future for themselves. It meant a lot to her to see every single student pass with flying colors, a rather admirable and unique goal for a devil, but that's one of the qualities that separated her from most of her kin. Hell, her ultimate dream was to start a school for lower and middle class devils so they could be more knowledgeable about raiding games, culture, education. It might have not shown much through her icy, strict and disciplinary attitude, but she truly cared about the well-being and success of others, whether they be devils or humans or something else. Which is why yesterday's events were scandalously horrid and appalling for her. To see so many bright and well-mannered students throw away their education and act like idiotic, brainless brutes hurt her. It was also a damage to her pride that she could not prevent and stop those students from being dim-witted. Over what were they being dim-witted about? Rias looping her arm around the elbow of a new student and dragging him inside. For almost all the students to go insane simply because of something as stupid as that? No. This was in plain terms, just unacceptable, and that's why everyone, minus those who stayed until they were dismissed, were going to be punished severely. The harshest of punishments falling on one Issei Haido, of course. It was only because of her mind manipulation ability that all devils possess that she was able to prevent the reputation of this academy from being dragged through the mud. What if she didn't possess such an ability? Didn't all those students understand that attending top universities like Oxford or Harvard would be impossible with a damaged reputation? Did they not realize that attending universities or colleges in general would be quite difficult? All of them, especially Issei Haida. They all will be disciplined very, very thoroughly. This she vowed. But before anything, she will personally prevent the same circumstances from ever happening again by greeting and welcoming the new student while daring anyone to even glance at their direction. So livid that she felt like she could whip the behind of every student who participated in yesterday's madness and add in her devil powers to boot. Which is why she, Sona Citri of the House of Citri, the younger sister of the Satan Leviathan and the president of the prestigious Ko Academy's student council, was standing here at the gates, waiting to meet and welcome the one who unintentionally caused the riot 24 hours ago. So that is him, though physically he looks strong and capable. I still find it hard to believe that this human managed to beat Rias and her peerage, a very impressive task for a human. Sona thought with a bit of awe as she studied the young man who came in with her childhood friend and stood before her. Hello, my name is Sona Shirtorai, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am the student council president. Feel free to address me as Sona Kaishu or just Kaicho. It's nice to meet you too, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Sorry about what happened yesterday, Naruto said sheepishly, though he quickly noticed how unlike yesterday, everyone seemed to not pay them any sort of attention at all. Talk about weird. Nothing to apologize for, Uzumaki-kun. If anything, it's these sorry and miserable lot who should be apologizing to you for chasing you and for causing a terrible first impression. Her voice, though quiet and low, seemed to reach the ears of all the students in the courtyard, who deflated at her words. Turning her attention to her childhood friend for the first time this morning, Sona smiled and nodded. Rias. Sona, I'm a bit surprised to see you here first thing in the morning. Rias nodded back. I don't want a repeat of yesterday's incident, which is why I'm here. Inhaling deeply and pushing her glasses to the bridge of her nose, Sona turned around to look at the students responsible for giving her a headache. I want all of you to head to your classes. Now. Immediately and without any form of protest, all the students obeyed the student council president and headed to their classes, none daring to speak a word in risk of aggravating the already aggravated woman. Damn, that's impressive, Naruto thought, very amazed with how she commanded everyone and seemed graceful while doing it. Without glancing in their direction, Sona spoke up. Uzumaki-kun, Rias, come with me please. The shinobi and Gremory heiress followed the younger sister of the Satan Leviathan, a look of unease and discomfort decorating the Jinchuriki's features as he could feel the displeasure rolling off from the woman in front of him. He could tell that it wasn't aimed at him, but such knowledge didn't deter him from feeling this way. Rias, I'd like to punish your pawn. While everyone's behavior yesterday was atrocious, yes, it was your pawn who led everyone into chasing after you both. So she's a devil too, huh? Naruto thought, mildly surprised. It would make sense considering how cordial yet friendly the two women seemed to one another. Now Sona, you know that as his king, it is my right to punish Issei-kun for his actions. Rest assured though that I will punish him for what he participated in. I myself am appalled by what he did. Stopping abruptly, Sona turned around to grace her childhood friend with the look, really you can't fault me for doubting you, Rias, but you are kind, too kind even at times. Can I really trust you to handle the punishment for Haidu? You certainly can, Sona. I'll punish Issei so hard that the first thing he'll do this morning before lunch break is apologize to both you and Naruto-kun. Yeah, I just don't see that weirdo saying sorry to me. He actually came up to me and said sorry. To say Naruto was surprised was an understatement. He genuinely thought Issei Haidu would rather eat bleach than to talk, much less apologize to him. He hardly knew the fella, but from the first moment they met till now, it only seemed that the harem-yearning man disliked and barely tolerated him. Can you repeat that again? I'm not sure I heard you right. I said I'm sorry. I know I've been a jerk lately and I hope we can start over, Issei stated glumly. Issei, despite his perverted tendencies, was actually a man who had his heart in the right place. Having felt that he was very weak in his recent ordeal with Rainier and the fallen angels, and as a teenager with insecurities, to have to witness a guy the same age as him just utterly demolish him and the other peerage members in a fight, it was humiliating and a miserable experience. It didn't help that the guy was handsome and effortlessly captured the attention of both Rias and Aquino. To have to interact with someone that fortunate in luck was a difficult pill to swallow, but one he had to nonetheless in order to both avoid the spanking delivered by his king and to avoid his guilty consciousness. Yeah, I don't mind starting over. My name's Naruto Uzumaki. I'm Issei Haidu, nice to meet ya. All around the unique duo in the hallway were students who were keenly observing and now whispering harshly to one another, their gossip and eccentric comments easily being heard by the blonde and devil. What is that pervert doing now? Naruto-sama, why are you talking to that freak? Don't tell me they just became friends. The perverted libido should just die. Get away, Naruto-sama, that pervert is contagious. Naruto watched as a vein appeared in Issei's forehead, each comment just further enlarging the blood vessel. The last remark about him being contagious is what finally blew Issei over the edge. Shut up all of you, Issei bellowed, putting his impressive set of lungs to use, startling and terrifying everyone minus the shinobi. Make funny of me now, but know this, all you guys will wish you were half as cool as me, and as for you ladies, you all will beg to join my harem in the future and I won't let any of you in ever. Silence, pure silence reigned in the crowded and student-littered hallway. None spoke as each of them silently contemplated the leader of the perverted trio's declaration. Suddenly one of the female students' face contorted in fury, then an additional 2 faces, then 8, and then all at once. If it wasn't the feel of their bloodlust or the rage that clouded their eyes, it follows that their wrath-induced screams was what had Issei turning tail and sprinting away from the angered and hostile woman. Naruto watched as the masses of students chased after Issei Hayato. Feeling nostalgia and sadness as Issei's quirks reminded him of his godfather, both were very shameless. Both had an unhealthy amount of appreciation for women, and yet that's where the similarities ended from what he knew so far. Jiraiya, though he claimed to be a super pervert, was more of an honorable man than most people gave him credit for. In a world full of bloodshed and hatred, he was one of the few who aspired to achieving world peace. He cherished and loved people like they were his own family. And as he recently found out from his fellow disciples, Jiraiya stayed behind in order to look after and care for 3 orphans he didn't even know. Such actions would have surprised many who claimed to know Jiraiya but never truly knew him. He had a heart of gold underneath that pervy and lewd exterior. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, his emotions spiking at the thought of his dead godfather, he took several more breaths to calm his heart, feeling great agony at the loss of his father figure. Closing his eyes in concentration, Naruto pushed back the feeling of loss and pain, locking those emotions deep inside his soul. A full minute passed before Naruto finally felt centered and balanced, not at pain but not completely at peace within himself. Opening his eyes, the shinobi jumped back as his eyes found a deep set of concerned yet beautiful lavender orbs just a few inches away from his face. "Are you okay?" Akino asked softly, the worry in her eyes quite obvious for the Jinchuriki to spot and pick up. Right after the first period had ended, Akino made it her mission to look for the man who beat her and everyone else, looking forward to spending more time with him and to give him the promised tour of the school. She had nothing for the second period. It was vacant so as to give her time to study usually, but it presented her with the best opportunity to help out the cutie pie, especially when she knew that he had nothing as well since she familiarized herself with his schedule. Some might say that it was a little creepy, but in her defense, she only wanted to help him since he was so unfamiliar with not just the school but also the town itself. That was her thought process, but such thoughts wouldn't help her when they noticed the red hue in her cheeks. Having arrived just in time to hear Issei's stupendously outrageous yet hilarious declaration. It took everything in Akino not to collapse and dissolve into uncontrollable fits of laughter, her lips trembling with heavy exertion to stop the giggles that wanted to come out. She managed to suppress the laugh but not her amused smile. Her smile slowly faded as she took notice of Naruto's shaky breaths, the amusement in her eyes transitioning into a worried look as his eyes closed for what seemed like forever. Akino felt the urge to hug the blonde, an instinct that she didn't bother trying to quell as she crept closer to the clearly at pain blonde. Standing right there before him, Akino started to move her arms to wrap them around Naruto and abruptly return them to their natural place as the shinobi finally opened his eyes. An almost unnoticeable blush grew on her face, feeling great embarrassment at her failed attempt to physically comfort him. Still, despite her embarrassment, she truly wanted to know if he was alright or not. "Don't worry about me, Akino, I'm made of strong stuff," Naruto replied back with a small grin, the grin melting away at the frown that formed in Akino's breathtaking visage. "Naruto-kun, just know that whatever it is that hurts you, you can talk to me about it," she told him quietly, internally disappointed at his lack of confession. "Thank you, Akino-chan, it goes without saying, but if you need someone to talk to as well, I'm here. Kinda pointless to offer since you have Rias and the rest, but yeah, I'm around to help," Naruto stated sheepishly. The lingering disappointment disappeared at his words and she gave him a small smile. Grabbing his hand, Akino giggled lightly at his confused expression. "Don't tell me you already forgot about the school tour, cutie pie. Not that I'm unhappy about you showing me around, but don't you have class, Akino-chan?" "For the first semester, I have no classes on second period, and that's the same case for you. Now let me show you everything the school has to offer," she said while tugging him to her. The shinobi offered no resistance and allowed her to drag him around, feeling very much like a doll played with by a 5-year-old, incapable of resisting, just used and played with until discarded, not that he felt that Akino would just use and then discard him. Being deep in thought as he was, Naruto failed to catch the livid and heartbroken expressions that adorned the faces of the male population, the feelings of ire and sorrow that originated from their souls caused by an unsuspecting shinobi. Not Akino though, she easily picked up on the thoughts and jealousy of the male student, a small flush on her face at the assumption made by her fellow students. She did nothing to dissuade the male population from thinking that they were a couple. The only thing that prevented the students from forming another riot to punish and chase the blonde out of the school was the predatory and menacing glint found in the student council president's eyes back at the assembly. As such, they could do naught but watch as one of the beautiful Wanisamas of the school held hands with that annoyingly handsome blonde and took him away from the female's secluded hallway. The fear in their hearts instilled by the little sister of the Satan Leviathan prevented them from clobbering the blonde and winning the heart of the mesmerizing Akino Himejima. "What are you all doing here? Go to your classes now," roared Tsubaki, the vice president of the student council and the right hand and queen of Sona Citri. That snapped the male population out of their depressed and heartbroken state. Immediately they all dispersed and scattered, none willing to risk the ire of the normally stoic vice president. "Where are you taking me, Akino-chan?" Naruto asked curiously. "Quite a few places, cutie pie. There's the gymnasium, the cafeteria, where your other classes are at, the library, the clubs at school, the locker room, and my favorite spot at the school." "Favorite spot?" Akino nodded and smiled lightly at him. "You'll see, in fact that will be our first destination. Ku Academy is regarded as the finest school in all of Japan for a reason. That's one of the major reasons as to why Sona-chan is so furious with everyone, because yesterday's debacle almost cost the school its reputation," Akino said with a giggle. "I am completely innocent in this. I still don't understand why I had an army of nutcases chasing me out of the school. Only thing I do know is that Issei was the one leading them." How do I say this without sounding arrogant or bratty? Akino's mind was blank. Nothing came to mind in how to describe their position without coming off as conceited and shallow. Sighing at her failure, the Thunder Priestess just tried her best not to give a bad impression. "The only thing I can say is that everyone in school, like everyone has a lot of appreciation for both me and Rias-chan. There is also appreciation directed at Kibakuin, Kaneko-chan, and Asia-chan. There is also Sona-chan and the student council. But out of everyone in school, there is no one more loved than me and Rias-chan. They love us like a lot, to the point where we most of the time stay in the ORC club just to avoid our eccentric and bizarre fanboys and fangirls." "When you say everyone, even the teachers and staff?" Naruto asked olishly. "Yes, me and Rias-chan got used to it a long time ago," Akino stated simply. Attending the same academy and receiving the same daily treatment for 2 whole years, it numbed a person to the affection and the obsessive devotion that everybody directed at her. It was kinda sad to get used to something like this, but life was different for every soul. "Well, that's very creepy, Databeo." Naruto instantly cursed himself for the stupid tick mark. What a way to look unmanly. "Databeo? That's so cute," Akino gushed teasingly, dramatically hugging the life out of him, making sure that the blonde could feel her blessed and well-endowed attributes. Mission accomplished, Akino thought with a small lustful grin, having easily noted the pink hue gracing the shinobi's face. "I'm not cute. I'm a man and men aren't cute, they're badass," Naruto exclaimed loudly, trying not to show any outward reaction at the feel of the voluptuous woman's soft breast pressed against his chest. The Thunder Priestess snorted and laughed softly at the shinobi's reaction. "I think a man can be both cute and manly. Besides, you didn't have any problems with me calling you cutie pie, you don't, right?" Akino asked him while giving him the look. Poor Naruto looked her in the eye, the perfect response in his head, just waiting to be delivered, just waiting to be said, and then all but forgotten as he peered into the quivering and moisture-filled eyes of one of the most sensual and beautiful women he's ever had the pleasure of seeing. Her heart-capturing features easily influencing and taking a hold of Naruto's being. What was he going to say to this woman? Naruto wasn't one to be at a loss of words, quite the opposite really, but when faced with shaky lips, unsteady sniffles and warm tears plastered on the mesmerizing face of an angel, it could be pardoned that Naruto forgot exactly what he had in mind. "I don't mind, Akino-chan." No sooner did his words reach her ears, a large smile graced her face. "You make me so happy, cutie pie, so happy that I could eat you up." Naruto instantly blushed crimson at Akino's lewd words, yet as embarrassed as he was, he couldn't deny that he was actually enjoying the attention. Akino laughed at the embarrassment that this handsome young man felt. It just didn't make any sense how he reacted. When men are so powerful, especially at a young age, they're surrounded by the company of so many women who happily flaunt their body in hopes of catching a powerful man's attention. Because of how often the strong would be surrounded by attractive-looking women with no sense of normalcy, the men would grow immune to the woman's shameless display and indecency, so much that in some cases a woman could be naked and yet the powerful would not be fazed in any way. To see Naruto, someone whom she found out the hard way, was really strong, it perplexed her, as by all rights someone of such a standing of strength shouldn't be that embarrassed by her forwardness, and yet he was. It was both really cute and just so endearing. Come cutie pie, I really want to show you my favorite spot in the academy. Is it really that good of a spot? Naruto questioned curiously. Akino simply smiled at him and let go of him, mentally pleased that he didn't have any problem with their long hug. You'll see, come follow me. She headed towards the door leading towards the staircase, the blonde right behind her, and ever so curious. Curiosity was replaced by shock and a little shameful excitement as Akino walked down a flight of stairs, her long and thick milky thighs at eye level with the blonde. Naruto looked away for a few seconds, mentally admonishing himself for looking at his friend in such a way. Worse was that said friend was the one who healed him, and this was how he repaid her? Despite the internal self-directed reprimanding, Naruto looked back to admire her beautiful and meaty legs, unable to resist the bewitchingly hot woman and her shapely body. Each time Akino raised a lower limb and brought it down on the next stepping stone, Naruto witnessed her girthy and thick thighs jiggling enticingly. In his entire life, he's met many women, Kunoichi in particular, who were blessed with beautiful forms and physiques. The training trip with his godfather was quite educational, and Naruto laid eyes on many a woman who saw no issue with being bare before them, some of them even trying to entice him to join them in some passionate lovemaking. One in particular was blessed with large thunder thighs that led up to a really nice butt. That woman was quite audacious, but audacious or not, she was hot. Many of the women he met were beauties, but they had nothing on Akino. Just looking at the creamy, soft and doughy thighs that this woman possessed had his mouth watering a little bit. Naruto felt his pulse quicken as he decided to take a quick upskirt peek, and whoa. Ass, a lot of it, like a lot and a lot of ass. Probably just a slightly bit larger size than Rias, but whereas Rias had the smaller of the two, even if just barely, her ass was somewhat more rounded than Akino's. Enjoying the view, cutie pie, her melodic voice snapped him out of his thoughts, and Naruto promptly blushed as he gazed at the knowing and amused eyes of the Thunder Priestess. Sorry, I didn't mean to look, but I kinda did, Naruto stated sheepishly, feeling very awkward at his predicament. No doubt his pervy godfather was laughing in his grave at this. Akino felt her lips curl into a delightful smile, and without any impulse control, said the first that came in her mind. I don't mind if you want to look, cutie pie. Huh? Really? Naruto asked, shocked and stunned. Women didn't usually react like this. I have no problem if it's you, Akino stated teasingly, shaking her hips just a little to draw attention to her fat rear. Naruto's eyes quickly closed in embarrassment, his face still colored crimson from both the embarrassment and the view. I appreciate the offer, but I won't be looking at your, Naruto drawled out awkwardly, not sure how to say the word. My big butt. Akino helpfully supplied, internally displeased yet amused by his shyness. Yes, can we please talk about something else now, Naruto pleaded, the tips of his ears starting to steam from how hot his face felt. I don't know, cutie pie. I think a lot of people, including dear Issei-kun, would happily enjoy the view and wouldn't want to talk about something else. There's a reason I'm calling him Hentai-kun Akino-chan. The guy is just downright obsessed with sex. I've met many perverted people in my life, quite a few who I was close to actually, but they all had restraints or other really good qualities. Did you know that before I saw you in the hallway, Issei proclaimed to all the girls that he will become harem king and won't allow any of them to join in the future? Who the hell does that, I wonder? Naruto asked sarcastically. Akino let out a large bark of laughter at the memory. She tried to stop laughing, but just thinking about it along with how Naruto phrased his question so sarcastically had Akino fumbling to control her nerves. I don't know, but you have to admit it was pretty funny, Akino said between gusts of laughter, stopping altogether to grip the handrail as she wheezed at the funny memory. Naruto tried and failed to suppress a smile as he heard her laugh. He couldn't blame her too much at the reaction, as Issei's stupendous declaration would have had him laughing too if it didn't hit too close to home. Excuse me, I do believe that you promised to show me your favorite spot in the school. Let's try our best not to laugh at Hentai-kun's expense any longer. Naruto joked offhandedly. Akino nodded with tears in her eyes. She struggled to contain her laughter but was able to do so after a few seconds of exertion and focus. We're pretty close now. Come, you'll really like it, Naruto-kun. She let go of the rails and headed up with more vigor than before. Naruto walked alongside her this time, trying his utter best to restrain his inner Jiraiya and be a non-pervy shinobi. The unusual but attractive duo made it to the top floor, standing right before an oddly ominous and large door that just emitted a sense of dread and creepiness. That didn't stop one Akino Himejima as she stepped forward and pushed past the now open door. Naruto followed right behind the bubbly and attractive woman. He was grateful he followed her. They stood on the rooftop of the school where they were afforded with a beautiful view of everything in their vicinity. As a sage, even if just recently, Naruto could tell that this place right here just screamed serene and quiet. In here one was afforded with the view of students just relaxing and hanging out and chatting with beloved friends. One could see the various trees, the ponds and the forest, a good view of the sun and how it illuminated everything. Truly was this spot a goldmine for when someone wanted to meditate. I'm really glad I followed you here. This place is just beautiful, Naruto murmured softly as he walked up to her, standing alongside her as they viewed the courtyard where the students were going about their mundane day doing mundane things. Trust me, it's a lot better at sunset or at night. That's when this place really, really shines. Thank you for showing this place to me, Naruto said kindly, turning his body towards her and giving her a small Uzumaki grin. It was no problem at all, Naruto-kun. I enjoy coming here whenever I can. I'm enjoying it a lot more with you around though, so maybe you should join me every time I come here, Akino proposed playfully. Well, when you put it like that, how can I say no? Akino giggled and Naruto joined her as he chuckled at their newfound and odd friendship. The underworld, Lucifer's palace. If one had to use 3 words to describe the eyes of one Graphia Lucifage, the first words to come to mind would be freezing, terrifying, and beautiful. Her hypnotic gaze seemed to draw one in, like a fish being caught and reeled in by the fisherman. The moment one's gaze landed on Graphia's pair of silver pearls, they could not look away, as either they were too hypnotized by her enthralling beauty, or were struck with fear as they noticed the sheer coldness that lay in her predatorial eyes. Either way, such attributes only helped strengthen the reputation that Graphia built as the Ice Queen of Surzek Lucifer. One would think that Graphia would be happy with the life she lived. She was powerful, famous, filthy rich, and on top of all that, she was recognized as one of the most beautiful women in all of the supernatural world. In the eyes of most humans or devils or other supernatural beings, Graphia had it all. It was only natural of them to think that the Queen of Annihilation was a woman with a happy life. They could not be more wrong. Graphia did indeed possess all that was mentioned, but what she did not possess was the love of a soulmate. A common misconception in the supernatural world was that both Graphia and Surzek were married, that they fell in love in the Civil War and got married afterwards once the war ended. If only the stories were true. The truth of the matter was that Graphia and Surzek had indeed fallen in love. Their love was strong, it was bright, and it burned with the warmth of 1,000 suns. That's how it felt for the beautiful silver-haired woman. And for some time it felt that way for Surzek too. He loved Graphia passionately, and all was well until he met a woman named Sayla. She caught his eye when he witnessed her show compassion to a 5-year-old fallen angel. So awestruck by the kindness he witnessed, Surzek couldn't help but approach her, needing to find out just who exactly was this woman. Approach her he did, and they would soon become close friends that would spend more time with one another than what was deemed appropriate, and before Surzek knew it, he was heavily in love with Sayla. Sure, Sayla wasn't as remotely gorgeous as Graphia or as powerful, but her kind heart and melodious soul lulled Surzek to her like a moth to a flame. And as Surzek happily found out, she too shared a warm, passionate love for him as well, but she wouldn't act on that love until Surzek put an end to his relationship to Graphia. A consequence of being titled as a Satan was that he was restricted to only one wife. It effectively came down to a single choice: Graphia or Sayla. The gorgeous queen with a head of pearl-colored hair, the very same who abandoned her kin to join his side in the Civil War, or the woman with a heart of gold that would feed and clothe and care for a 5-year-old fallen angel when hardly any devil would. It was a hard choice to make. Now faced with such a decision, Surzek's heart thumped with guilt as he thought of Graphia's sacrifice and all she had ever done for him. Even if one ignored all that she has abandoned and renounced to be with him, how does one approach a woman who loves them and explains that you no longer want her because your heart now belongs to another? Surzek wasn't sure, and he wasn't too enthusiastic to find out. His feelings were understandable as he was rewarded with the most stinging slap he had ever received in his entire life. A slap that was both physical and emotional, with the emotional being extra biting as he beheld the tears that were present in her eyes. The way her shoulders shook with such sorrow, and the way she barely held herself from crumbling at the pain and humiliation. He truly hurt her, and any attempt to comfort her would result in vicious and aggressive attacks meant to maim, or even kill him if he dared to speak a single word of comfort, or to hug her to help with the agony. As such, Surzek left the cold and heartbroken woman to weep on her own, his heart heavy with guilt as her sobs grew ever so louder with each step he took away from her. Fortunately, his mother happened to run into him by chance, and once aware of the situation, didn't waste any time rushing to comfort Graphia. The shame and regret that he felt in the pain he caused Graphia caused him to seek out Sayla, the same woman who would 2 to 3 years later would in secret become his wife as Surzek married her. Not everyone was so accepting of this relationship at first. His parents for one were against his choices from the beginning. It was only a year later that he would finally earn their approval as they slowly grew to like then love Sayla as one of their own. Grafia, on the other hand, she eventually forgave him and was even so kind as to help cover his marriage with Sayla. But the coldness that greeted him whenever he stared into her alluringly silver eyes, the coldness in her eyes whenever she stared at him never faded away. Fortunately, Grafia didn't grow resentful as she spent more years in the Gremory estate. She came to love Rias as her little sister, came to love Lady Gremory as her mother. She even grew to love Sayla and Milikas as a sister and nephew. But despite being surrounded and being part of a family, she couldn't help but yearn to have a man's love. The closest she had ever gotten to that was with Surzek, and that was more than 100 of years ago. Grafia just wanted to have the love of a soulmate, to have adorable children of her own to look after and care for. Each year she went without experiencing that dream only made her feel more bitter, more detached, and slowly losing the will to truly live her life. That was the thoughts and torment of the strongest queen as she sat at her king-sized bed and laid there, the sheer space in the vast bed mocking her and making her feel more alone than ever. She contemplated the last few decades spent here and thought about everyone who she grew to care and love for. Her thoughts went towards Surzek, and her heart grew cold as she thought of how he handed his heart to Sayla. Even after 100 years she still couldn't help but wish that Surzek was with her here, in this bed. Grafia felt the warm tears on her face. She tried to control her feelings, but the loneliness felt the past 100 years couldn't be suppressed. It cried out to be released in some form, and Grafia wept at her loveless and marriageless life. A frown grew at Rias's pristine visage as she read the letter for what seemed like the 100th time now, a letter with the initials and signature of her father Zeoticus Gremory. The contents of the letter were most displeasing to Rias as she contemplated the piece of information received. Damn you, Riser, bad enough that you're practically forcing me into this marriage, but now you're trying to push us to get married now. When we already agreed to solve this once I was done with university. Damn you, Rias thought angrily. Truly it seemed like she just couldn't catch a break. Her day was entirely ruined, no thanks to that belligerent pig and her beloved father. She read the letter one last time, her form encased in her signature power of destruction, as she grew even more wrathful at the contents of the letter. Even more displeasing was that Riser was supposed to arrive tomorrow to see her in her club. She had just ran out of time with getting rid of this contract. She needed immediate solutions to get out of this shackling and unwanted marriage, but her only two options were either a raiding game, an option that wasn't very favorable for her. The other option was being sullied with another man's seed, and there were no guarantees with that option that it would annul the contract. Riser might not even care that she would be spoiled goods as people would see it. Besides, she didn't have many men to choose from. Kiba was too respectful and only had eyes for Tsubaki. Issei could work, but truth be honest, she'd rather not give her virginity to her pawn. That left only Naruto-kun, but doing it with him meant that he might not respect her as a woman after the ordeal. She does plan to pursue a relationship with him once she's done with Riser and the stupid marriage contract. Choosing Naruto meant that she might forever lose his respect and admiration. That was of course not mentioning that it will be her first time. It was supposed to be with someone special, right? Sex was supposed to be a union caused by love or lust, yes? Definitely not a union caused by desperation. Snap out of it, Rias. None of this will matter if I'm married to Riser. I will get out of this accursed marriage one way or another, the redhead thought determinedly, getting up while simultaneously crumbling the letter in her hand. Yet despite her newfound determination, Rias couldn't help but be saddened at the recent turn of events, and what she had to do. Why do you do this to me, father? Is it wrong that I just want to be like a normal teenage girl with no shackles and to just have fun and meet boys I like? Is it really that wrong? Rias felt the beginning of tears building in the corner of her eyes. She wiped at them and sniffled, but her heart broke at the circumstances put in place by her parents. Forgive me, Naruto-kun, Rias uttered sadly, her blue eyes alight with grief and bits of shame for what she had planned. It was nighttime when Naruto finally returned home to his and Rias's shared residence. Having spent most of the day either learning in school, hanging out with Akino, or training, Naruto felt like he was owed a date with his bed. Of course, being on a date entailed that he had to shower and smell good and not reek of sweat. One hot shower later and Naruto was happily nuzzling his face on the soft and comfy pillow. The way his comfy cushion just wrapped his face in softness was tugging him to blissful sleep. He was looking forward to it. You don't always get what you want, unfortunately. Naruto came to that startling realization as he heard Rias knock on his door. Getting up sullenly while mentally crying at his luck and fortune, the shinobi trudged towards the door where on the other side a mesmerizing redhead lay waiting for him. Hey Rias-chan, you just ruined my beauty. Is everything okay? Naruto's cheerful disposition faded away into a concerned outlook as he gazed at a set of watery and heart-tugging aquamarine orbs. Hey, what's wrong? Naruto asked softly, wrapping his strong arms around Rias's more delicate and fragile frame. Poor Rias leapt into his arms and hugged him back desperately, trying to submerge her existence into Naruto's warm and consoling hug. He looked down worriedly just as she looked up, deep ocean blue meeting soft vulnerable turquoise. Naruto-kun, Rias called out slowly. Yes, Rias-chan, he responded just as slow and soft, but his tone belaying confidence and strength. Please don't think bad of me for what I'm going to ask of you, she pleaded a bit, nervously twirling a strand of her hair. I won't, but what do you need from me? I'll try my best to help you, he assured her confidently, internally curious but wary of what help she was asking him precisely for. Had he been 3 years younger, he would have immediately offered his help without knowing what he was getting into. Fortunately, he grew from that naivety. It didn't mean that he was immune to the warm tears of a kind young woman like Rias. I want us to have sex, Naruto-kun, I need you to fuck me, Rias said, her eyes darting to look at everything but at him, feeling extreme embarrassment and self-conscious at what she just said. Huh? Naruto was dumbfounded. Are you really gonna make me say it again? Rias asked with even more unease than before, her cheeks flushing even more crimson. No, I heard you the first time, you just surprised me is all. Rias-chan, where is this coming from? Naruto questioned her gently, cupping her small hands with his big ones. Maybe I just really want you to make love to me, Naruto-kun. Her usual bright and beautiful smile didn't reach her eyes. Naruto couldn't help but frown at the sight. Rias, what's going on? He brought her over to the end of his bed where they sat, and he wrapped her in a side hug. You can talk to me, what's the issue that's making you act like this? I can tell just by the look on your face that you're very sad. Naruto tried to console her, his heart bleeding with worry for the unusually sullen and discouraged girl. It doesn't matter, Naruto-kun, just make me a woman already. She got off the bed, causing the blonde to drop his arm, and Rias grabbed his shoulders, pushing him gently till he lay on his back with her straddling his stomach area. Only now did the shinobi catch on that Rias was wearing a flimsy purple see-through nightgown, the fabric failing entirely in its purpose of covering Rias's beautiful and curvaceous form. Large milky breasts practically out there and jiggling. It took a lot of willpower and determination, but Naruto forced himself not to blush, trying his utmost best to not look down and ogle a clearly in need of help friend. Rias-chan, stop. It's obvious that something is going on, talk to me. Naruto pleaded as he lifted the redhead off him, eliciting a squeak from the heiress as he stood up and placed her on the floor, crossing his arms and waiting for an explanation. Rias looked down and sighed despondently before looking back up. I'm in an arranged marriage, one that I've been stuck in since I was a child. I'm being forced to marry a despicable pig who only sees me as another pair of tits, and as I've been trying for a long time now to get out of it, but nothing seems to work. I'm sorry that I came to you like this, but it was the only thing I could think of to escape this forced marriage, to escape from Riser Phoenix. I know it's not fair to you, and I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I didn't have much of a choice. Hey, I'm not angry, Rias-chan. I am a little disappointed. Naruto trailed off, seeing her wince. But I know that you have your heart in the right place, so don't worry about this, I forgive you. Naruto consoled her. Now what's our game plan? What options do we have so far in regards to saving you from this Riser Phoenix? Tell me everything, Naruto demanded. Rias looked shocked at his use of we. The shock faded away and Rias felt a bit more better and at ease to have Naruto by her side. Tell him, she did, as she explained everything from her father's hands in the contract to how she felt in all of this, the view that the underworld society had about it. All this was information Naruto was soaking up patiently, his features twisting slightly at the thought of Rias's parents. It would be quite accurate to say that everyone in the underworld, be it my parents, or the Phoenix clan or the Elder Council, they all want this marriage to happen, each have their reasons, but I'm the one who is losing the freedom from this affair. Rias explained sullenly. Rias, Naruto called out softly. Said girl looked at him silently, waiting to hear what he had to say about all of this. Placing his hand on her delicate shoulder, he said the only thing that came to his mind. I promise that you won't be married to Riser or to any other douchebag who you don't want to marry. Naruto vowed to her, unveiling the resolve and confidence in his eyes to the silently observing redhead. Slowly, the blank expression on Rias's face faded away as she smiled gratefully at him. Thank you, Nar. A blue teleportation circle formed in the middle of the room. What followed next was the voluptuous form of a silver-haired woman garbed in a French-made attire with piercing gray eyes glaring at the blonde. Rias-sama, get away from this trash. Grafia demanded frostily, her posture rigid and tense as she took note of the scantily clad heiress standing just mere centimeters away from the muscular blonde whom her little sister figure was no doubt planning to lay with tonight. Naruto's eyes hardened as he glared at this woman, the audacity of her to come into his room uninvited, demand something from Rias and insult him? He opened his mouth to let her know exactly his thoughts and got cut off by Rias before he could say anything, who immediately leapt to his defense. Grafia, what do you think you're doing? You have no right to just come barging in like this, and furthermore, Naruto-kun is not trash. I've come here to stop you from making a terrible mistake, though I did expect you to be in your pawn's residence, so you can imagine my surprise when I learned that you're housing a human and planning to be intimate with said human, Grafia stated stoically, her eyes trained on the blonde who glared back. Rias frowned heavily at her brother's queen, most displeased with her actions. That same human who you were insulting is the same one who turned down my advances and is the very same who's actually trying to help me with this stupid marriage. No matter what role he played tonight, it doesn't matter, Rias-sama. Your presence is required as issued by your parents, Lord and Lady Gremory, Grafia announced, walking up to her little sister figure while materializing a full and concealing coat from her hand. The strongest queen wrapped the coat around the redhead's frame once she was in hugging distance, her movements gentle and pleasant despite the rigidness that still lay within her form. I don't know who you are, but you're clearly precious to Rias and vice versa. Why are you not helping her? Naruto questioned her, his confused but firm blue eyes locked on icy gray. One of the many skills imparted to him thanks to his godfather was reading body language. The blonde wasn't a master of the art of body reading, but even a novice could see just how much Grafia conveyed her care through her soft and tender ministration to Rias. Because my hands are tied in this, my position as both a maid of the House of Gremory and as Queen of Lucifer ensures that I can't interfere in this contract. I simply have no say in the matter, Grafia replied stoically, walking back to the center of the room and forming another magic circle. Naruto said nothing. What was there to say? Clearly the odds were stacked against Rias in every conceivable form. It didn't mean that he would give up and let her lose, but the situation was just not favorable. Rias seemed to read his thoughts because she turned to look at him, her eyes conflicted and a fake smile plastered on her face. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but don't worry, I'll figure this out and I'll see you tomorrow. She leant in and placed a chaste kiss on his cheek. Pulling away and walking towards her older sister figure, both Rias and Grafia disappeared to the underworld, leaving Naruto to contemplate everything that's been said and happened after he let Rias in. Well shit, looks like I won't be sleeping in early after all, Naruto mumbled to himself, mind racing with ideas and theories to help his distressed and shackled friend. He laid on his bed and stared at the ceiling blankly, each idea flashing in his head getting rejected just as instantaneously. Come on, Naruto, think, damn it, what can be done to help Rias with ending this contract? The only way we know so far is either for Rias to win the rating game against Riser or for her father or Risers to annul it themselves. Naruto closed his eyes and thought as he mused about her chances. The odds of the second option happening is outright impossible, as both parties are deadest on this marriage happening, meaning that the rating game is her only option. However, the way Rias-chan described it, she has no experience in those events, whereas Riser had participated, won and practically never lost in any of the matches he took part of. That's also without mentioning that Rias doesn't have a full peerage while this Riser has the maximum number of pieces. The odds truly are against her in every way, Naruto concluded, his heart aching for the sweet woman who took him in without truly expecting anything in return. She was a kind soul who came off as sultry and coy but was in actuality a very compassionate woman, definitely not deserving of the fate of a loveless forced marriage. Now it makes sense why she wanted me to join her peerage so badly, except with this being a permanent process. I just can't join no matter how much I want to help her. I need to find out if this process is reversible. If it is, then I can help Rias from there, Naruto theorized, partially satisfied to finally have a possible solution. Still though, for Rias' sake it should be assumed that the process isn't reversible, which means that I need to decide from now if I can stomach the idea of not being human. Naruto felt the beginning of a migraine as he contemplated the decisions. To say Naruto slept well was like saying that the sky was brown. Such a statement was simple false, certainly untrue, and very much preposterous to even think about. His friend's dilemma kept his thoughts running, even after finally making his choice after much thought. He simply couldn't sleep as his mind replayed the scene from when Rias knocked on his room to when she and that weirdly dressed woman left. There were just too many thoughts going through his head, some which didn't even revolve around his friend but rather on the failure of being able to use summoning jutsu. He couldn't even summon a tadpole. And that's with him using 25% of his reserves. He was eventually able to sleep, but having taught his body to wake up at around sunrise, Naruto felt drowsy as he only caught a measly 5 hours of sleep, definitely not something he wished to get accustomed to. Fortunately, he had an easy fix to his drowsy and groggy state. It took around 15 minutes, but exiting the bathroom, Naruto felt refreshed and energized. He headed downstairs to converse with Rias, and was promptly disappointed by her lack of presence here. A part of him was expecting it given last night's event, but such knowledge and expectations didn't help in erasing his disappointment at not seeing her. Quickly making breakfast for himself and heading to school right after, Naruto felt uncomfortable as he realized just how attached he'd been to Rias the past few days. Just walking to school alone was a struggle considering he still hasn't memorized the layouts of his destination. You don't realize just how close you get to someone until it's too late, Naruto murmured to himself, a quicksilver image of the Uchiha crest flashing in his mind at the thought. Keeping his head clear, Naruto proved to himself to be competent and capable man as he made it to school all on his own. What followed after was hours of him being tortured in class. Leave said class once it ended just to go to another class and endure the same painful process repeatedly until school was finally over. Naruto groaned as he slumped on his desk, laying his head on his arms to get a comfortable sleep. School was finally over, but paying attention to teachers as they droned on and on about history or math or physics was quite challenging, made even more so since he had a headache from creating so many clones earlier to study so he could catch up. He won't be dead last ever again, Databeo. But despite his new goal and despite the fact that this time around teachers were not trying to sabotage his education, it sure as hell doesn't mean that he'll enjoy studying. No thank you. He stayed there for a while, just enjoying the peace and quiet and the lack of monologue emerging from the demonic and evil teachers here at this academy. As nice as it was to stay, Naruto knew that there was much to do and much to accomplish, so getting up, groaning pitifully as he did so, Naruto walked out of class, waving and smiling back at the occasional girl who smiled and blushed at his general direction. It didn't take long before he was out of school ground, and before the blonde knew it, he was standing just outside of Rias's home, face to face with the door. He raised his hand to knock and hesitated. The implications of his decision once again engulfing his existence, and reminding him of a very much likely probability of his choice being permanent. Going through with this meant that he might never be human again, a goal that Naruto worked so hard to prove to the villagers of Konohagakure. Such a decision meant that Naruto would eventually outlive all his friends, and the few he considered family. Because I love you, Naruto-kun. Being a devil meant that it might not work out with him, and Hinata if he sees her. Naruto stood there for a while, torn between the duty he felt towards his home and doing the right thing. Torn between helping a woman who's shown him so much kindness he's never received or ever would have fathomed, such as simply walking with him to school every day, to even opening her home to him because he had nowhere to go. Rias truly did everything she could to help him even after he refused to join her peerage. Then moving to Hinata, while she didn't provide him with food or clothes or opened her house to him, she did jump in to face a monster of an S-rank shinobi in order to protect him. In her defense, when it comes to providing for him, he just simply didn't need her to survive in Konoha. In a world surrounded by so much pain and hate directed towards him, she was the only one who ever said the words "I love you" at him. An experience and a moment that many were familiar with, but one that had been deprived from the shinobi. To decide between the two choices after everything that happened, Naruto wouldn't have been able to make up his mind had he not remembered the quivering and glossy eyes he stared into last night. Naruto knocked on the door, patiently waiting for the Gremory heiress to show. She didn't disappoint as she opened the door and welcomed him inside with questioning eyes. "Why did you knock, Naruto-kun? You didn't forget the keys, right?" Rias asked him inquisitively. "No, Rias-chan, I didn't forget my keys," Naruto replied back with a small laugh. "It's a bit awkward to explain, but I felt like I needed to show you some respect and knock on the door." "Oh, I kinda understand, but not really," Rias stated a bit confusedly. "It's a bit awkward to explain, as I said, but that's not what I want to talk to you about, Rias-chan. Do you have a moment?" "I do, Naruto-kun. As it so happens, I also need to talk to you," Rias uttered seriously, grabbing his hand and leading him to the living room. They sat together on the couch. Both of them said nothing, either of them sure of how exactly they wanted to start this. "This is awkward," Naruto thought to himself. He couldn't handle the silence anymore. "Rias-chan, I was thinking." "Naruto-kun, I want to." Both of them spoke at the same time. All was silent for a few seconds before the pair laughed softly at the awkward situation. "Rias-chan, please go first, I insist," Naruto said with an amused twinkle in his eyes. "Oh, aren't you a gentleman? Thank you, Naruto-kun." She graced him with an amused and beautiful smile. A cheeky grin was her response, and Rias had to suppress a giggle at the goofy expression he was making. "I wanted to apologize for last night. It wasn't fair what I was planning to do, and I'm really sorry for all of it." Rias looked down, feeling great and immense shame at her actions last night. She felt Naruto place his hand on her shoulder and she looked up, expecting to see a disgusted or a disappointed expression, but was surprised by the look of understanding found on Naruto's face. We all hurt our friends unintentionally sometimes. Naruto remembered how horrified he felt at the sight of Sakura's injuries by his hand back at Tenchi Bridge. But that's the thing, it's unintentional. He murmured understandingly to her. Besides, did you forget that I already forgave you, Rias-chan? Naruto smiled teasingly at her and Rias couldn't help but laugh, the blonde's word and smile helping elevate the guilt and burden on her shoulder. Thank you, Naruto-kun. You won't regret the second chance you gave me. She promised determinedly. I know I won't, he agreed with her wholeheartedly. Also, do you remember how we talked about my options against Riser last night? At Naruto's nod she continued, well, it's official now. I have a rating game against Riser 10 days away from now and I want you to help train us, please. We could definitely use the help. The moment she finished speaking, Rias felt trepidation as she awaited his answer. Of course I can and will help. It's the least I can do after everything you did for me, and even then, I always help my friends. Naruto brightly proclaimed, unknowingly helping Rias relax from the stress that just plagued her. But there is something that we do need to talk about that concerns all of this, Naruto stated seriously, his relaxed and easygoing demeanor fading away as he appraised Rias with the most serious stare he'd ever given her to date. Poor Rias felt her heart beating rapidly as she stared at the suddenly dead serious shinobi. I thought about this for a long while, and it wasn't easy to decide, but in the end I have decided to join your peerage. Rias felt a massive tidal wave of relief, excitement and happiness at the prospect of someone strong like Naruto joining her. Her chances of win, but I need to know a few things first. What do you need to know, Naruto-kun? I'll try my best to answer all your questions. It was difficult to rein in her excitement, but Rias managed as she spoke professionally to the blonde. For starters, the turning into the devil part, is it reversible? Not to my knowledge, but I know the creator of the evil pieces personally. He's my brother's best friend. I can introduce you to him so you can ask these types of questions, but as far as I know, the process isn't reversible, she stated truthfully. If it were irreversible and I did decide to join, can I expect to still have my rights and freedom and to do as I please, even if it meant leaving to somewhere far, far away in the future? I can't lie and say that you'll have all the freedom in the world as you do now, but I do promise you that as long as you help me win this match against Riser, and as long as whatever you do doesn't create an international incident in the greater supernatural world or doesn't affect the underworld in a negative way, then I won't restrict your freedom like how you may fear I do. Naruto paid attention to every word spoken, eyes tracking her body language in order to try sense any form of deceit that might contradict what she was promising. He found himself satisfied with the lack of evidence that she might plan something. Unlike most devils, Naruto-kun, my clan pride themselves on being very affectionate and caring towards our servants. If anything, you'll have my help in achieving your goals as long as they aren't against the underworld's interest, and as long as what you seek to accomplish is something I agree with. That's nice and all, Rias-chan, but I'd like to know not about the Gremory clan or their heiress Rias Gremory, but I want to know about Rias the person. Is she the type to truly think of her servants as her family? Does she see her servants as people very precious to her? Naruto questioned her, all his focus condensed into one single point, the woman in front of him. Naruto's question took her by complete surprise. It took her a few moments, but Rias regained her bearing and answered the blonde's question, her respect and admiration towards the shinobi swelling at his thought process and mentality. Yes, my peerage is my family, and all of them, whether it's Akino, who I've known for years, or Asia and Issei, who've been a part of my family for less than a month, all of them, despite the differences, are truly precious to me. Rias stared back into Naruto's stern, unflinching eyes. Her answer brought a smile upon the shinobi's face, his grim and stern bearing returning to his normal relaxed and carefree expression. Well, when you put it like that, I suppose I have no choice but to join your peerage, Rias-chan. She really did try to control herself, but the joy of having Naruto in her peerage just made her lose all sense of control as she squealed in utmost delight and hugged the blonde. Thank you? Thank you? Thank you? Naruto's eyes softened as he hugged her back. He wasn't entirely sure if he made the right choice in becoming a devil, but it felt right to help someone when they needed it, especially one as kind as Rias. It's no problem, Rias-chan, but you have to know one thing. If this process is irreversible, then I will turn back into being human once we're done with this Riser fiasco. Deal? It was tough being stern towards a woman who was hugging you tightly, but Naruto got his point across if the repeated nodding was anything to go by. So how do you turn me into a devil? Naruto asked her curiously. Oh, that's pretty simple, really. Rias let go of him and stood up for the next part. She had him lie down on the couch as she explained the process to him. Every chess set has a total of 16 pieces, 1 king and 1 queen, 2 rooks, 2 bishops and 2 knights. There's also 8 pawns altogether. The king piece is in me as I am the leader of the peerage. Akino-chan is my queen and my right hand, so to say. Kiba-kun is my only knight, and Kaneko-chan is my only rook. Asia-chan also is one of my only bishops, and Issei-kun in his case is a bit special as he took all 8 of my pawn pieces. Now would be a good time to mention this. Unlike in canon, Rias doesn't have Gaspar Vladi in her peerage. She never met him. He doesn't exist in this world. Naruto was dumbfounded at this startling revelation. There was simply no way that Issei was that strong. Issei took all 8 of your chess pieces? How does that work exactly? No offense to Issei, but he isn't exactly strong. Actually, he's pretty weak, no offenses intended again, but what is the worth of pawn pieces compared to the rest? He needed to know the answer to this question. Rias had to stifle a giggle at the blonde's reaction. It was quite amusing really how he felt in regards to Issei. Nonetheless, she indulged him. A queen is worth 9 pawn pieces, a rook is worth 5 pawns, knight is 3 and a bishop is also worth 3 pawn pieces. She remembered the elation she felt when learning just what exactly did Issei possess for a sacred gear. She got really lucky with her choice. Issei is a special case because his sacred gear is one of the Longinus sacred gears. There are only 13 of them in existence, Naruto-kun, and they are so powerful that they're classified as gods' killing weapons. And Issei possesses one of them. Now it made sense why it took Issei all of the pieces in order to be a part of Rias's peerage. Kinda like being a Jinchurikiha. Naruto thought to himself, seemed like he and Issei had more in common than what he thought initially. Yes, he does. I'll tell you more about it later, Naruto-kun. Right now I want to turn you into a devil, then we'll make the most out of these 10 days and become stronger. Even a moron could feel the determination in her voice as she voiced out her words. This right here, Naruto-kun, Rias said, gesturing to the unique-looking piece that materialized on her hand, is a mutated rook. Mutated pieces are quite rare and are much stronger compared to the standard pieces that every high-class devil would possess. I only possess one because of my Oni Isama gifted me with his mutated piece. Not that I mind you using such a piece, but why use that specific one if it's that rare? He questioned inquisitively. No doubt there was a reason behind this choice. Well, Naruto-kun, Rias trailed sheepishly. You're too strong for me to use the standard pieces. It's one thing if I'm turning someone weaker than myself into a devil, but that's not the case here. This wouldn't work if not for my brothers or technically now my mutated rook. Naruto nodded at that. Her explanation was quite logical and reasonable. So how do we do this, Rias-chan? Rias smiled gently at him. Like this. She placed the mutated rook on the center of his chest and started to chant. I, Rias Gremory, do hereby order you, Naruto Uzumaki, in my name to live as a devil of my house. You shall become my devil and rejoice as my new rook. The abnormal-looking piece atop the shinobi's chest glowed a bright shade of red not unlike Rias's hair and sunk into his body. A fact that had Naruto feel and look uncomfortable as he sent a questioning and unsure gaze to the visibly happy redhead. I believe in you, Issei-kun. I know you can achieve whatever you put your mind into. Asia cheerfully proclaimed, her faith in her first friend and kinda secret crush being absolute. You do? You really think I can achieve my dreams? Issei asked her excitedly, grasping her shoulders and eagerly waiting for her response. Issei felt like he was one of the luckiest men in the world to have Asia as a friend. The sheer amount of trust that she had in him made him want to become a stronger and better man, something he definitely planned on doing in order to become harem king. Asia brightly smiled at him, her heart beating quickly as the object of her affections was paying so much attention to her. Yash! Then I definitely won't fail and will become even stronger than even you, team. Issei roared enthusiastically. His announcement was met with approval from everyone who smiled at him encouragingly minus Naruto and Kaneko. The shinobi just rolled his eyes and mentally apologized to his teachers for his past behavior before he left on his trip with his godfather, Issei's rumbustious attitude reminding him of his younger, more eccentric self. Kaneko, on the other hand, just ignored him, pretending to not hear the pervert at all. That's the spirit, my dear Issei-kun. Work and train very hard for me, okay? Rias fluttered her eyelashes seductively at her only pawn, her voice melodic and soft yet very alluring as she addressed the second weakest member of her group. If possible, Issei seemed even more fired up than before. I will become super strong and one day I shall touch your heavenly boobs, Bucho. Akino bit her lips to stifle the laugh at the awkward smile Rias sent her pawn. Naruto had no reservations as he let out a loud bark of laughter followed by several smaller ones. Kiba too couldn't resist chuckling at the announcement, while Asia was appalled yet blushing at his indecent words. Kaneko just gave the leader of the perverted trio a dark glare, then looked ahead, intent on just forgetting about his pitiable existence. Cutie pie, if you want. Akino slid up closer to the blonde shinobi, her mouth just an inch away from his ear. You can touch my boobs anytime, she slyly said, her smile widening a touch when she noticed the pink hue on the blonde's face. I'll keep that in mind, Akino-chan, Naruto mumbled embarrassingly, desperately trying to not think about the audacious woman's offer. Rias narrowed her eyes dangerously at her queen. Akino, stop harassing my rook, she demanded. Right away everyone stopped walking to look at the blonde and their king, their expression belaying shock at this news. Naruto looked a bit uneasy at their reaction but smiled nonetheless. The first to snap out of it was Akino, who looked extremely pleased at this. Oh, that's such wonderful news, Akino voiced out delightedly as she hugged the blonde tightly. That busted everyone out of their shock as they each congratulated him on joining, some more enthusiastically than others as they talked with him. Well, this is certainly not the worst decision I've ever made in my life, Naruto thought to himself as everyone minus his king praised his decision to join them. Issei worked his lungs to full capacity as he sprinted away from the army of clones chasing after him. Heavy waterfalls of tears cascaded from his eyes as he ran like never before, snot dripped from his nose, his lungs burned for air, and his muscles were heavy with exhaustion from the marathon he'd been in for quite some time. No questions behind it, this was a punishment made by the blonde for having almost all the students in Co chase after him. He apologized for it, did he not? Then why was that blonde bastard torturing him like this? One day I will have my revenge, Issei roared despite his exhaustion, his voice somehow being heard by all the occupants of the estate despite the stampede of clones rushing towards him. Issei failed to spot the small rock before him, and the leader of the perverted trio proved that he had the luck of an anime character as he tripped on the small obstacle, his velocity ensuring that as he fell face first to the ground that his visage would skid on the dirty floor. Pwah! Disgusting. The boosted gear user spat out the dirt that was in his mouth. He looked up by chance and anxiously noted that he was surrounded in a circle by what seemed to be only God. He inwardly winced at the pain. Knows how many clones of the whiskered bastard responsible for this form of training. Hey guys, lovely day we're having, right? Issei felt the sweat drip from his face as he watched in both morbid fascination and horror as each clone gave a positively dreadful upturn of their lip. He observed with rapt attention as one clone stepped forward, the leader no doubt. A lovely day indeed. The leader clone chuckled. Like a domino effect, each and every clone followed suit and guffawed. Issei nervously laughed alongside them, internally crying at his misfortune and hoping beyond hope that the day wouldn't end the way he was thinking it would end. Issei gulped deeply. You don't have to do this. The replica nodded. I know. The alpha clone raised his hand for all to see and snapped his fingers. Issei screamed as the clones ran and leapt at him. Elsewhere in a much more secluded area of the Gremory vacation home, far from where Issei was training, Naruto sparred with 500 of his clones while being heavily weighted down by a gravity seal. Sweat clung to his form as he weaved and dodged and struck back at his replicas. The use of the gravity seal on his body, as Naruto found out, was very effective and handy. Already he could feel a difference in his strength and speed, and all this came from simply being on level 4 out of 25. Naruto could already imagine it. When he'll finally reach the final level, he would without a doubt be able to match and surpass Tsunade Bachan in sheer strength alone. A prospect that deeply pleased the Jinchuriki, and that wasn't the only benefit that came with training with a gravity seal. His speed would also be quite legendary, as he'd imagine. The idea of keeping up and even surpassing the famed 4th Raikage in his element was an idea that struck Naruto with excitement and determination. Being that strong and fast meant he wouldn't need to rely on Sage Mode extensively like he did when he faced Nagato. Sage Mode in his eyes should be more like a secret weapon or a hidden tool to use only as a last resort. As such, Naruto was all too willing to train himself to be a much more capable shinobi than ever before. Regardless of how he felt though, sparring against 500 clones while being heavily weighted down wasn't always inspiring and enjoyable, evident with how Naruto found himself on the receiving end of quite a few fists and kicks. It was impossible to remain unscathed when training in this form, but none could deny the effectiveness of such a program. Maybe he needed Issei to get in on this. He contemplated amusedly. It would certainly hone his battle instincts, and it would most definitely help increase Issei with his pain tolerance. Sadly, such a form of training wasn't very functional in the time frame they were given. Ducking under the spinning kick thrown by the last remaining doppelganger, Naruto extended his fist and buried it into his clone's liver, watching impassively as his clone popped from existence and engulfed the surrounding area in smoke. He stood up straight and released the gravity seals. Immediately his body felt much lighter, and the shinobi could have sworn he heard his muscles cry out in relief as he headed back to the large mansion quite a distance away. Now that's a good way to end the day. I need to train like this more often, Naruto mused. Dinner had ended and everyone had retired to their room. Naruto laid his back on the king-sized bed and sighed contentedly. While he did find the size of the mattress to be unnecessarily large, he wasn't really complaining, as never had he had a bed like this back in Konoha. It was also criminally soft, and Naruto couldn't help but wonder if he could get away with stealing this mattress and taking it back to his home dimension. He was in another dimension with seemingly no way to return, and the only link to his home was both his headband and the furry asshole stuck in his guts. How did he find himself in these sorts of situations? He didn't know. Unsealing his headband from the seal in his left wrist, Naruto scrutinized and inspected the piece of article that symbolized where he was from. Memories of the barren wasteland he called home flooded his mind, and the Jinchuriki found himself unable to look at the headband any longer, feeling unworthy of looking at the object once he remembered how he failed in protecting his home. Yeah, the people of Konoha were alive again, but what if Nagato didn't decide to revive the people he had killed in his invasion? Naruto would forever live with the knowledge of knowing that the death of all those shinobis and civilians were because of him, because of his weakness. Not mentioning that the memory of people dying, of people losing their loved ones, that trauma that they all experienced won't ever go away, and Naruto found himself feeling immense shame from being the cause of all that suffering. It was no wonder why a part of him actually found it relieving that he wasn't there back in Konoha, as he could not find it in him to look at anyone without the feeling of intense regret eating away at his soul. Sealing the headband away, Naruto silently apologized to all the victims that suffered due to pain attacking because of him. Now wide awake and unable to fall asleep due to his depressing thoughts, he made his way to the kitchen, finding himself oddly dehydrated and wanting to quench his thirst for water. The sight that greeted him as he entered the kitchen, saying he was speechless, was an understatement, as his eyes drank in the sight before him. What was before him was one Akino Himejima attired in nothing but a heavy-duty sports bra that barely held her massive perky breasts, and shorts that exposed a whole lot of long creamy legs. Naruto felt his face gain a pink hue and forced the urge to ogle his friend away. He glanced at her beautiful soul-pleasing visage and was promptly confused by the pout she adorned. His gaze drifted slightly to the side, and suddenly it made sense why the ravenette was pouting. Akino had a semi-large plate that carried the most delicious cake he'd ever seen in his entire life. It was a triple-stacked strawberry cake sprinkled with many bits of M&Ms. A deliciously pearly white substance decorated the cake in the shape of a heart right in the center of the tasty-looking food. The shinobi with or recognized the substance to be vanilla cream. The cake was perfection, a craftsmanship made by the hands of the gods. It looked appetizing in its place in the counter next to the fridge, no doubt meant as a surprise to everyone, intended for tomorrow. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. My bad, Akino-chan. If it helps my case, I won't tell anyone that you made cake for us. It's for you, she deadpanned. That caught him off guard. Huh? Akino giggled lightly. Rias is my best friend, Naruto-kun. I see her as my sister in everything but blood, and you have no idea how happy and relieved you made her when you decided to join despite not wanting to initially. Naruto chuckled awkwardly, closing his eyes in faint embarrassment from the sort of compliment. I didn't realize that, but it kinda makes sense. She grinned. Kinda makes sense, huh? Akino couldn't help but tease. It was the shinobi's turn to pout. You know you don't have to make fun of me, right? I know, but it's fun, she said while still flashing him with her full-fledged smile. Putting all that to the side, he uttered while walking to her, thank you, Akino-chan, for baking all of this for me. You didn't have to, he earnestly said, touched by her actions and sentiment. She shook her head gently, elegant black locks swaying in a manner most fetching. But I did. I wanted you to know that what you did for Rias, my sister, I wanted you to know that I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate this a lot, thank you so much, Akino. He really did appreciate it. This was the first time in his life that someone had ever baked a cake for him as a surprise and just to show that they appreciated him. It was a profound experience, one that he would never forget and a memory he would most certainly treasure. Akino smiled softly. So tell me, why was Issei-kun glaring at you the entire time when we've had dinner? Naruto snorted and laughed, his body shaking with mirth as he remembered with precise detail what he put the average-looking boy through. You remember how when I first fought you guys how I formed clones? Well, with his sacred gear thingy I figured that it was reliant on his stamina, and he drawled out, a fox-like grin on his face. And I figured that for his training, stamina is what he needed to work on, and nothing is more effective in training than pain. So I created a couple hundred clones who ran after him, their purpose as an army being to each trample on him and inflict great agony. So caught up in explaining his story, Naruto failed to notice the small blush that stained Akino's cheeks. She rubbed her thighs discreetly, quite aroused by the idea of involving clones to inflict pain. His survival instincts would naturally force him to push his body past its limit in order to avoid being caught in the stampede, and from there his stamina would become better. Of course, it was only a matter of time before Issei's body gave out, and my clones had some fun from there. Naruto explained cheerfully. She hummed thoughtfully. So just to see if I understand this right, Issei-kun is mad at you because the form of training you dragged him in involved running away from hundreds of clones, something he did for quite a while until he became fatigued, then your clones decided to switch from stamina training to pain tolerance type training. He nodded deeply. Akino shuddered, desire and lust gripping her body and demanding immediate relief. That sounds hot, she purred, eyes half-lidded and conveying nothing but hunger, as she stared deeply into Naruto's sapphire pools. The shinobi blushed terribly, and the ravenette felt her lips twitch into a saucy pleased smirk. Oh yeah, I'm totally hot, Naruto replied back clumsily, fumbling to structure a proper sentence. He felt his face burn in embarrassment, as a musical giggle danced past his ears. Cutie pie, I'm gonna go get some sleep, but I do hope you enjoyed the cake I made for you. Don't finish it all at once, okay? Yeah, about that. Akino raised an eyebrow, her breath hitched as Naruto unexpectedly hugged her. Thank you for this, it was really kind of you and I won't ever forget this, he declared resolutely. Akino hugged back, enjoying the feeling of the blonde's strong arms wrapped around her body. It was no problem, Naruto-kun, it was my pleasure. She let go of the hug and he did the same, both inwardly disappointed by the lack of body contact that they quickly grew accustomed to. Good night. She spoke softly. Good night, Akino-chan. She strolled past him, heading to the exit and leaving the Jinchuriki to remain on his own in the kitchen. Naruto's eyes drifted to the cake, inspecting her work and finding it to be all the more impressive, especially now that he knew that she made it for him. He already knew that underneath playful and coy persona was a thoughtful and generous person, but her actions still took him by surprise. She's very nice. Time skip, 8 days. 8 days had passed since then, each member making tremendous progress in their training. Naruto in particular was pleased as he'd finally made some progress with the almighty push. It was nowhere near ready to be used in combat, but progress was progress, and he was happy. He'd also went from level 4 to 5 in the gravity seal, and man was it intense, he felt weak like a newborn. The intensity was kinda cool in a I'm going to be super strong kinda way. He liked the struggle he was experiencing, but damn. As of right now though, he was taking a break from training, retiring to hang out with the Gremory group in the lounge room. Damn, Issei, you're starting to look shredded. That's really impressive for just 9 days of training, Yudo Kiba commented with awe. He heard sniffing and sweat dropped at the heavy tears found in the Ippei-obsessed teen's eyes. Are you okay? Everyone peered curiously at Issei, wondering what exactly about Kiba's statement was so depressing that he'd start tearing up. No, I'm not. The shinobi bit his lips to stifle his laughter. This bastard, Issei roared, his hand pointing towards the blonde Uzumaki, had me running marathons every day for 9 days. It was either I run or I get stomped on by hundreds of clones who wanted to use my body as a trampoline. And when I couldn't run anymore, they'd still jump me. The shinobi could no longer hold himself and exploded with laughter, tears present in the corner of his eyes. He was joined by Yuto, who laughed uproariously as well, along with Rias and Akino, who both giggled at Issei's misfortune. Even Kaneko smiled and looked to be struggling not to join in on the mirth. Excluding Issei himself, the only one who didn't look the slightest bit amused was Asia. She had a horrified expression at the prospect of her crush being trained in such a way. Issei-kun, are you okay? Do you need me to look over you? She got up swiftly from her seat, striding quickly to her crush to check him over for any lasting injuries. Rias looked over the blonde responsible for her pawn's grief and pain, amusement clearly dancing in her teal orbs. Naruto-kun, why would you train my precious pawn in such a way? Can't you see just how much you scarred him? I'm very disappointed in you, she teased. But look at him, Rias-chan. Look at the results of all that sprinting and running. He's lost the love handles that were on either side of his stomach. You can even see the definition of his abs popping. I'd say what he went through was very worth it, Naruto cheerfully exclaimed. I think I'll be the judge of whether it was worth it or not, Issei darkly mumbled. You know what I think, Bucho. Akino spoke up, gaining everyone's attention. We all could use a break. We have been training for 9 days now, and some rest and team bonding sounds like a good idea. Rias mulled the thought over before nodding her head. I agree. I certainly wouldn't mind soaking in the hot springs after all the training we've done. Blood immediately spurted from Issei's nose, a powerful nosebleed rocketing him to the wall behind him as images of Rias's massive breasts along with Akino's larger ones all the way to Asia's more modest but still appetizing tits flashed in his mind. His head bashed the drywall, propelling him to a state of unconsciousness as the impact to his skull along with the vast quantity of blood loss proved to be too fatal for his body. If there was one bright side for Issei to being knocked unconscious from a massive nosebleed, it was that he didn't get to witness the disgusted expression that marred Kaniko's face as she coldly glared at him, perfectly aware of what thoughts went through his head and less than amused with it. Pervert, Kaniko thought annoyedly. Issei-kun! Asia screamed as she ran towards his downed form, hands glowing green as she materialized her sacred gear to heal him. Era, that must have been very painful for Issei-kun. Akino obviously stated, hand pressed in her cheek as she observed the large lump protruding from the back of the pawn's head. Rias turned to her queen and deadpanned. What was your first clue? The sarcasm in her tone was detected by all. I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Issei-kun is made of strong stuff. Kiba mediated between the two. Whether it was due to Asia's twilight healing or Yuto's word about the boosted gear user being true, Issei woke up from his short and less than peaceful sleeping. Thank you, Asia-chan, you're the best, he exclaimed happily. Asia blushed madly and twiddled her thumbs. Her gaze dropped from the brown-haired boy as his words rang in her head like a mantra, each repeating mantra causing her skin to be more and more inflamed. It's no problem, Issei-kun. Rias bit her lips to suppress the squeal at the scene before her, the moment she witnessed being just like that scene in Daki Daki the Love of a Maiden. The Gremory heiress wasn't the only one affected by the sweet display. Aw, Asia-chan, you're so cute, Akino gushed, quickly striding to the short blonde and pulling her into a big hug. It's been decided, you're sitting next to me when we relax in the hot springs. Poor Asia could not reply with her face being mashed in between Akino's heavenly bosom, though she would have probably agreed regardless. Boys, have fun spending time together, okay, us girls. Rias walked away from the group, heading towards the room with the hot springs, her form quickly being followed by the remaining ladies who all followed after her. Kaniko quickly peered over her shoulder to glare coldly at all three men. No peeking. Her emotionless stare drifted from one male devil to another, gaze lingering a tad bit longer on Issei than it did with Naruto and Yuto. Issei reeled back in fright while both blondes just shared an uncomfortable look. It was only after the dull echoes of Kaniko's footfalls could no longer be heard did all three let out a collective breath. So Kiba spoke up, gaining his fellow teammates' attention. What do you both want to do? I'm down for anything. Naruto shrugged. Same here. I'm up for any ideas except for peeking on the ladies. Both blondes turned to the boosted gear user, interested in hearing his options. Well, I saw an arcade in one of the rooms in this mansion. I'd say we can put that in good use and chill. Yuto nodded, pleased with his choice while Naruto looked on with confusion. What's an arcade? The gentlemen of Ko Academy along with the leader of the perverted trio snapped their heads to the whiskered shinobi, shock highlighting and permeating their features. Why, you don't know what an arcade is? Yuto asked, eyes wide as saucers as he gazed at the newest member of Rias's peerage. The Uzumaki shook his head, curious as to what this arcade is. The horror! How do you not know what an arcade is? Well, fear not, Naruto, because I will save your soul from such evil. Come follow me. Issei sprinted out of the lounge room. Naruto quickly followed after the Ape-obsessed boy, leaving Kiba to chuckle before he too bolted after them. Time skip, 1 day. To say everyone was tense was an understatement. Gone was the carefree and joyful atmosphere that pervaded the air. Each member of the peerage found they could not relax under the stress of tomorrow's raiding game, yet neither could they train because they needed to be in their best shape. It was a frustrating day for all of them, but none were quite as agitated as Rias. Located on the balcony of the living room, Rias peered over the starry night. Her beautiful curvaceous body dressed in surprisingly modest clothing for the usually indecently dressed devil. Her form glowed beautifully underneath the gaze of the ethereal white moon, sensuously enchanting features illuminated by the moonlight, and giving Rias an angel-like look. She looked at peace. Yet that was further away from the truth as possible. Her thoughts were all over tomorrow. Fear gripped her heart at the prospect of losing tomorrow's raiding game, of being married to a vile being like Riser. She hadn't even thought of what could happen to her precious servants, no, not her servants. Her family, her precious family. What would happen to them if they lost tomorrow's game? Rias didn't know, and she didn't know whether her lack of knowledge of their fate comforted her or frightened her even more than the idea of being Riser's wife. Some of that fear transformed into righteous anger, and Rias had to avoid everyone lest she unintentionally direct that fury towards them. The sound of heavy footfalls thudding against the floor reached her ears. The gorgeous redhead tossed a glance over her shoulder, surprised aquamarine spheres meeting welcoming ocean blue. "What are you doing up so late, Naruto-kun?" The shinobi walked over to her, crossing his forearms and laying them across the rails of the balcony to stare into the night. "Just checking up on my favorite redhead." "That's very sweet of you, but you don't need to worry about me, I'm okay." "Maybe you really are okay, but it doesn't feel right letting you stay alone when you have to face the most potentially life-changing battle of your life." Rias was left speechless at his words, not expecting such a thoughtful consideration at her current circumstance. The surprises quickly faded away and she looked down, breathing deeply in order to steady herself and voice out her true thoughts. "I am not okay." Naruto's eyes softened as he gazed at the obviously shaken girl. "The man I'm fighting is a cruel, disgusting monster who takes what he wants with no consideration or mercy for anyone. If it meant killing a child to get what he wants, he will most certainly do that." She took another deep breath and continued. "If he wins, I'll become his plaything for all of my long remaining life, and what's worse is that I don't know what will happen to all of you but knowing my luck." "Hey, you're worrying over nothing, we will win tomorrow," he declared confidently. Naruto reeled back as Rias whirled towards him, her eyes furious yet teary as she glared daggers at him. "And how do I know for sure about that? Do you not realize that if we lose then it's not just my life that's in ruin but everyone's as well?" "Rias, you have no idea what type of man he truly is. I can scarcely think of someone viler than Riser fucking Phoenix and that thing." She wrinkled her nose in disgust. "Won every rating game he's ever been a part of while I still hadn't had even one. I've doomed you all as well." Rias felt the beginning of tears trickling from her eyes, frustration, guilt and sorrow melding into one single emotion that produced drops of clear salty liquid that cascaded down her rosy cheeks. Naruto slowly raised his hands and gently wiped the smudges of tears left in her visage. Mere moments passed, but for the enchantingly beautiful heiress time seemed to stretch on forever. It was only after Naruto finished wiping away the last of her teardrops did he speak. "Rias-chan, do you remember that promise I made to you before we came here, that promise from the night you came to my room?" Rias scrunched her nose in confusion, trying to remember why I promised that you won't be married to Riser or to any other douchebag who you don't want to marry. "I remember," she murmured quietly. "I won't let us lose, I made that promise and I never go back on my word." Though his words were soft-spoken, the conviction and strength behind them was stronger than steel. It wasn't just his words though, everything about him from the way he stood to how his eyes sparkled with determination and resolve spoke of his intention to truly fulfill his promise. That much was evident to Rias as she gazed at Naruto with a bit of awe and wonder. "Thank you, Naruto-kun, and I'm sorry for yelling at you. I don't care, and there is no need to explain anything to me, Rias-chan. You were not just stressed about your life but your precious people as well. There is nothing wrong with that," he interrupted her gently. She looked at him blankly before giggling suddenly. "Precious people, I like those words." Naruto grinned softly. "I like them too. It does sound pretty badass." Her eyes twinkled in amusement as she appraised the blonde. "Not as badass as when we kick Riser's ass." The shinobi burst out in a small laughter. He was quickly joined by the redhead who chuckled alongside him. "That's the spirit, Rias-chan," he cheered. "Now let's get some sleep so we can be at our best tomorrow." "You make a good point," she agreed, and they walked away from the balcony, traveling for an entire minute in comfortable silence until they made it to the hallway that led to everyone's room. Following the etiquette beaten to him by his beloved Bachan, Naruto walked Rias to her door like a gentleman. It took but a few seconds till they made it to her room. Wishing her a good night, Naruto turned around and was just about to walk away until he felt the Gremory heiress grasp his left bicep. He slowly pivoted his body towards her, curiosity lighting his features as he gave his undivided attention to the woman before him. "Stay with me," Rias whispered quietly. "What?" Naruto blushed furiously, caught off guard by her quiet demand. She shushed him quickly and Naruto rubbed back the of his head sheepishly, remembering that they were positioned just meters away from everyone's room. Did I imagine you saying that?" Rias felt a smile tug at her lips and didn't bother suppressing the urge to do so. "Yes, I asked you to stay with me tonight." Oh. The shinobi gave her a slightly uncomfortable expression. Not that I really have an issue, but why do you want me to stay? This may potentially be my last night sleeping on my own, and before you say anything. She raised her voice just a little bit at the end before the shinobi could interrupt her. I want to remember my last night before the game to be a memorable one, you know, just in case I lose and spend all my nights in his bed. Rias, we won't lose. You won't lose. And I believe you despite my worries and fears, but Naruto, please for me. Naruto didn't have it in him to refuse the woman who was kind enough to take him into her home when hardly any would, but when subjected to the look of a soft and vulnerable set of mesmerizing turquoise orbs gazing at him so hopefully, any resistance he felt inside died down at the look. All right, I can understand why you feel that way. A surge of joy and gratitude washed over Rias. Thank you? What did I just get myself into? Well, at the very least I know Jiraiya-sensei would be proud. Rias dragged him gently to her room, cheeks flushing pink as never had she ever actually asked someone to sleep with her. It was mortifying for the heiress. It was so much easier to sneak into a person's room when they were asleep and then sleep with them rather than to ask if they wanted to sleep the night together. That was her opinion. The redhead hadn't even meant to ask him, and wasn't even thinking when she grabbed his arm. The sheer panic she felt when she blurted out her question. She was just relieved that he didn't really mind. Time skip, day of raiding game. Satan conference room. Surzek Lucifer was a devil like no other. Those close to him would know him as a compassionate and affectionate, maybe too affectionate man with his family. Yet such traits weren't all he was known for those who knew him very well. He could be brutal and merciless for those who really earned his ire. Nicknamed the Blood Devil during the Devil's Civil War, Surzek Lucifer was known far and wide in the supernatural world as a powerful being with a low tolerance for disrespect. Him ascending to the throne to lead the devil race was a natural decision, yet in the light of such a move, he lost his position as clan heir to the Gremory clan. The title and position itself meant nothing to him, but as a being who loved his family dearly, there were days where Surzek couldn't help but wonder if he made the right choice, as it resulted in his dearest Rias being forced to shoulder the burden of being clan heir. He didn't regret becoming the leader of the devil race, but there were times where he wished he could have intervened on Rias's behalf and stop his father from having Riser marry into the Gremory clan. But as the Satan Lucifer, he could not interfere in clan-related business unless it impacted the sovereignty of the underworld. Such circumstances was why Surzek couldn't help but curse his father, curse his decision to become a Satan, and curse his inability to hardly be able to help Rias. Surzek-chan, I know that as Satans we're supposed to be impartial, but I say we screw with the rules. The Crimson Lucifer diverted his attention to his fellow Satan, Seraphal Leviathan, a devil formerly of the House of Citri. Let's vote for Rias Tan to win this raiding game, she declared enthusiastically. Surzek, despite his best efforts, felt a large grin form on his face. He gave up and chuckled at the effect his best friend had on him. If someone has an issue with us, they are more than welcome to address it with us. The former Citri heiress pumped her fist in the air. Now you're speaking my language, Zektan. Her bright sunny attitude was infectious. That's Seraphal for you. Cheerful, optimistic, and bubbly were among Seraphal's most endearing personality characteristics, yet like him she didn't become a Satan from smiling and twirling her magical wand before the old Satan faction. No, no. Definitely not. The strongest female devil. His female counterpart, so to say. And that statement rang true in not just their power and fearsome reputation, but also in the way they doted on their family, and how they both shared the same principles and values. It was no wonder why Surzek and Seraphal got along really well the way they did. I can't wait to see this match. Oh, I'm so excited to see Rias Tan win and look so cool while doing it. Me too, Sarah-chan. After that we need to organize a picnic somewhere in the underworld, and oh, hello Grafia-chan. Fia-chan. Hi. Seraphal cheerfully greeted. Said Devil bowed her head to the leaders before joining them in watching today's event. She stood right behind the large and elegant-looking couch in which the Satans were seated. Her upbringing and position as head maid of the Gremory clan and as Surzek as queen stopped her from joining them on the seats, despite both Surzek and Seraphal having no qualms with her joining. On the contrary, Grafia-chan, come join us, there's plenty of room right here. Surzek patted the space to his left. A small grin sent her way that even centuries later still caused the strongest queen to feel bits of butterflies erupting in her stomach along with a wave of bitterness. The invitation is appreciated, Surzek-sama. The Crimson Satan inwardly winced at the cold tone. But as your queen that would be most inappropriate, and would only tarnish your reputation. But Fie-chan, we're your friends. I must insist that you join us in watching Rias-chan's first rating game. Seraphol spoke up, lips formed into a pout and hands clasped together, as she gave her fellow ice user the puppy dog eyes look. I must respectfully decline your generous invitation, Leviathan-sama. It is unbefitting of a servant such as myself to sit side by side with two of the leaders of the underworld. Grafia replied back coolly. Well then, as Satan Leviathan, I use my authority to order you to come join us and sit down. Seraphol declared haughtily. Her eyes quickly darted to her best friend and he got the message right away. Serzek cleared his throat audibly. As Satan Lucifer, I support and second Leviathan Dano's decision. If not for the way she held and prided herself, Grafia would have no doubt rolled her eyes at the stubbornness of the two mules before her. She sighed and walked over the couch before plopping herself on the space her former lover patted on. Now was that so hard, Fie-chan? Seraphol teased, intentionally trying to push the strongest queen's buttons. Luckily she knew just the way to rile up her old rival and friend. You need to learn how to relax, Fie-chan. With how tense you are, it's no wonder why you don't have a lover. Serzek cringed heavily and made to get up. He found himself unable to as both women held him down on either side of his shoulder. What in Mao's sake did he do to deserve this? A quick nervous glance to his left showed the enormous vein protruding on Grafia's forehead. She was undoubtedly pissed. What was that, you overgrown excuse of a woman? Another quick glance to his right revealed the irritated look that now graced his best friend's face. Knowing that things would spiral out of control with the two, he quickly spoke up before Seraphol could utter a word and make this tense situation so much worse. Ladies, please, not now. Rias-chan's game will start any moment now, and I don't want to miss a single moment. Seraphol looked at Serzek with an irritated look. He gave her an apologetic expression, and she sighed before nodding. Having averted the crisis that surely would have followed had he not intervened, Serzek now looked on at the large screen before him, his entire focus centered on the long crimson hair belonging to his blood relative. Rias. Whether you win or lose, just know that I won't let you be married against your own will. Family always stick together. YOSH. We can do this, everyone. Let's win this match for Bucho and go back to Ko Academy. Issei declared confidently, drawing out smiles from the rest of the peerage and successfully erasing away most of the tension that weighed down on the group. Naruto smiled softly. It seemed more and more like the leader of the perverted trio was like a carbon copy of him when he was younger, when you took away Issei's perverted tendencies. Having gotten to know Issei more during the past 10 days, the shinobi found himself actually liking the boosted gear user. He's cool. Alright, so with the way the rating games work, Riser no doubt would want his pawns to arrive in our territory so they can promote themselves. Obviously we have to prevent that. Kiba stated simply. Rias nodded. Indeed, and I know exactly where I want you all to be stationed in order to ensure our victory. Everyone paid deep attention as she went over their battle formation. The gymnasium is a strategic threshold, and whoever gets there first would have a major advantage. Kiba-kun, Kaneko-chan. I need you both to secure the gymnasium and afford us every advantage you can secure. The mentioned pair looked at their leader determinedly. I won't let you down, Bucho. Kiba bowed. We'll make them regret deciding to come to the gymnasium. Kaneko cracked her knuckles. The crimson-haired ruined princess looked pleased at their declaration. She turned her attention to her smiling queen. Akino-chan. Just as Kiba-kun mentioned, there will no doubt be pawns trying to sneak in here to promote themselves, and I do imagine that they might also be flanked by other chess pieces. Make them regret their strategy. Your fuffy for the idea of hurting all those naughty weak devils is making me excited. Akino placed a delicate hand on her cheek, her normally seductive voice being especially potent at the end and causing a large blush to erupt on Issei's visage. Not that Naruto could blame him for his reaction, in all honesty. Even he struggled not to blush when faced with the combination of such an extremely beautiful woman talking in such a lewdly exciting way. Ria's sweat dropped but inclined her head. Her eyes darted to her pawn and bishop, and immediately both Asia and Issei straightened up once her attention was placed on them. Issei-kun, Asia-chan. You both remember those lessons that Akino-chan taught you on setting up traps, right? At her words, both of the mentioned devils nodded. I want you both to set traps around the football arena and on the ground to the right side of the gymnasium. After that I need you both to heavily support Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko. Asia, whenever someone on our team is hurt, let them come to you so you can heal them. I'll do my best, Bucho. I won't disappoint you. Asia murmured determinedly. Rias smiled and shifted her attention to her only pawn. Issei, once you and Asia are done with the traps, you have two objectives. Issei gave her his undivided attention. The first is to keep building up your power so you can transfer it to either Akino, Kiba, or Kaneko. depending on who needs it more. The second objective is to protect Asia whenever she's healing someone. Issei slammed his fist on his chest. Don't worry, Bucho. Those dirtbags won't know what hit them. We're walking away today with a victory. He pumped his fist in the air. Naruto gazed at the redhead curiously. What Abu, all right, devils, let the rating game between Riser Phoenix and Rias Gremory begin. Naruto slumped childishly as the announcer's voice reverberated throughout the entire pocket dimension. All right, Bucho has given us our orders, so let's not waste valuable time. True to her position as queen, Akino led everyone out, leaving only Naruto and Rias remaining in the clubroom. So what do you need me to do, Rias-chan? I am at your full disposal. The shinobi playfully saluted her, eliciting a small giggle from the normally reserved heiress. Rias tilted her head slightly, crimson bangs framing her visage in a manner most enticing. Well, first things first, I need you to make 10 clones, Naruto-kun. Riser has the advantage of numbers, and no matter how capable our own members are, I do imagine that a few will be able to sneak by and reach our territory. That would be an issue. Precisely, which is why I need your clones to sweep the area continuously and make sure that none come close by. Ah, I get it. Naruto smashed his fist into his palm. I'd have 10 clones ready to intercept any intruders while I would be fighting alongside everyone else on the front. Rias shook her head solemnly. Not exactly, you are right about the clones intercepting, but as for you, I need you by my side at all times. Disbelief collided and merged with confusion as he gazed at the ruined princess with startling intensity. You can't be serious. I don't like it either that my precious servants don't have you to fight alongside them, but this is the most sensible play I could make. Naruto rolled his eyes. And how, pray tell, is this sensible? We should be fighting alongside them. Rias didn't miss his implication as she clenched her fists and glared at her newest rook. Do you seriously think that I wouldn't fight alongside my family if I could? This game is strategic in nature. The moment I lose, we all lose. If this was a life or death battle, or any other type of battle, I'd gladly join them along their side, even lead them against whoever we're fighting, but this is a rating game. Do not forget that if I lose, it won't be just me suffering from a cruel fate. I can't let that happen, Naruto. I will not allow Riser to do however he pleases with my precious family, and if staying back means that the possibility of Riser winning is lesser than if I were to participate, then I will do exactly that. Rias added, less than pleased with the shinobi's tone. Nearly 15 seconds had passed before the blonde Jinchuriki sighed. All right, I can understand your reasoning wholeheartedly. Doesn't mean I have to like it. The redhead softened her glare. I know, and trust me when I say that I'm not fond of the idea that we are not there to fight with them, but this is the most sensible decision. Naruto nodded. I'm sorry for what I was implying. That wasn't fair to you. Nothing to apologize for, Naruto-kun. The way you reacted shows that you care. If anything, I respect you even more now. There is one thing I don't understand, though. You know that I can make a lot more than 10 clones, so why not let me make more? That's because I want you to be as close to full strength as possible. We're going to eventually have to face Riser, and I want you to be as strong as you can be. Naruto internally frowned. He couldn't fault her decision-making, as Rias wasn't aware of just how strong and just how large his reserves truly were. Based on her knowledge of him, she did make a tactically wise decision. The blonde had no one but himself to blame for not revealing his power properly. A decision that unfortunately was ingrained into him, as deception was a shinobi's most powerful weapon, or so he'd been repeatedly told. I understand. Forming 10 shadow clones, Naruto nodded towards his clones and watched mutely as the replicas all shunshin away to fulfill their purpose. Turning towards the heiress, the shinobi quirked an inquisitive eyebrow. So what do we do until we face Riser? Well, Rias purred sensuously, eyes twinkling mischievously as she got up and headed towards the perplexed blonde, grabbing his hand and forcing him to sit alongside her on the couch. I like to keep up to date with the science world, and I learned something very interesting a few months back. Oh? The blonde gazed at the only other occupant with a healthy dose of intrigue. Do tell. I've learned that when bonding with pets, stroking and caressing them helps in immensely lowering the stress hormone cortisol. That very same act of petting also helps in increasing oxytocin, the hormone that is responsible for helping mothers bond with their babies at birth. Not to be rude, but how does this topic relate to what we should do in the meantime? The Jinchuriki couldn't refrain from asking. A small smile plucked at Rias's lips as she gently cupped Naruto's face with both hands, much to his embarrassment and secret delight. Because we need to relax, Naruto-kun, and one way to do so is for you to allow me to pet you. Naruto deadpanned. Yeah, about that, I'm no pet. Sorry, Rias-chan, but I am afraid that I can't help you there. He felt slightly chagrined that she thought of him like a puppy or something. Just the thought had him grimace as he felt his masculine pride take a plunge. As though she could read his mind, Rias laughed softly. Please. Trust me when I say that it will